All right, welcome everybody. It is another day and another emergency that is growing and growing, and we will have a press conference from Donald Trump momentarily, scheduled for the top of the hour, and these have often started very late. It's never really clear why they start late. At one point, the idea was maybe it's timed to try to impact the market in one way or another, but it's Saturday, so that's certainly not the case today. They're just late. And we've been covering these all week, and I appreciate everybody who's joined me for them. And of course, welcome, like, and subscribe, and get memberships, and send super chats, and all of that stuff. But putting all of those issues of paramount importance aside, these press conferences are completely delusional. And with the exception of about maybe there was like a 3.5 minute period during the Wednesday press conference during which Donald Trump sort of behaved like a normal person. These are completely delusional, lie-riddled press conferences where journalists are attacked for asking very basic questions. Donald Trump promotes, medications and treatments that, while they have some promise, and I've been covering them, it promotes them as if we've got a treatment now and everything's great, despite the fact that he has no medical knowledge whatsoever. Um, Disagrees with what the actual medical experts on the stage are saying. And these are just, what I would like to see. And I have a few notes of things I want to talk about. I would like to so I think the press corps, other than the crazy people like Sean Spicer and OAN, are in the press corps. It's crazy. They were in the room yesterday. Aside from that, Donald Trump's belligerence and attacks on the press corps, and I'll show you an example in a second. I think that it's starting to unify the press corps, where they say we can't be treated like this. We're here at risk to our health in order to report on what's going on. I would like to see every time Trump doesn't answer a question when it's asked, the next reporter should ask the exact same question and say, I'm going to ask this again because you didn't answer the last question. And then when he doesn't answer it, the third person should say the same thing. Force Trump either to attack all of them and walk off the stage without answering a single question, which is essentially what's happening, just in a more propagandized way. Or maybe he will concede that what he's saying is not true. I doubt he would. I think he would simply go through everybody and then walk off the stage and end it early. And then maybe from then on, we would just hear from the medical experts. I don't even think we need to hear from Trump during these press briefings, to be perfectly frank. I would be fine hearing from Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci. And I mean, they're the two who have been least propagandized. That's what I would like to see. I don't think it's going to happen. Let's go momentarily. I want to go in a second to the Peter Alexander attack from yesterday. Before we do that, Chris says, does David own a bidet? I do not. Jimmy Bignuts says, hi, DP. I'm a big fan of Debussy. Do you like Debussy? I do. I do like Debussy very much. And Sam Kinyon has grabbed a soy boy level membership on YouTube. I appreciate that. We do have a 25 member goal. We do have the discount. I won't spend too much time on that. Just make sure as you're coming in on Twitch, make sure you follow our channel. As you're entering on Facebook, make sure you have liked our page. And as you're arriving on YouTube, make sure to both like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. So this was yesterday. Let's take a look at what happened yesterday. This was a pretty basic question. To call it bait, it's not bait. It's millions of people think Trump is incompetent, and we want to hear from what he has to say, and Trump just going off on Peter Alexander.
You say the Americans were scared, though. I guess nearly 200 dead, 14,000 who are sick, millions, as you witnessed, who are scared right now. What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say.
I
think it's a very nasty question, and I think it's a very bad signal that you're putting out to the American people. The American people.
And again, remember, Trump's acting like no one would be scared unless Peter Alexander said people are scared. No, people are scared. Half the country seems not to be. I'll have some news about that. People going to the beaches. I had friends texting me saying, hey, are you traveling to Europe in a couple weeks? Like, no, I'm not leaving my house, guys. But the question is a completely fair one. And Trump could have, this is only a bait question if you consider Trump to be completely incapable of showing any empathy whatsoever, which he is, right? But Trump could say, I understand people are scared. These are unprecedented times. But what I can tell you and what I know is that we have a resiliency and determination to say, blah, 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 right? I mean, like sound like Obama, basically, is what I'm saying. Trump can't do it, so this is what he does.
Are looking for answers, and they're looking for hope. And you're doing sensationalism, and the same with NBC and Comcast.
So
I don't call it Comcast. I call it Concast. Let me just for whom you work. Let me just say something. That's really bad reporting. And you ought to get back to reporting instead of sensationalism. Let's see if it works. It might and it might not. I happen to feel good about it, but who knows? I've been right a lot. Let's see what happens, John.
Can I come back to the science and the logistics?
You're
there?
be ashamed of yourself.
So that is someone who is increasingly completely out of control, right? I mean, he has no idea, and I did want to see if the White House is going to have a stream as well. They don't seem to yet. So we're waiting for the Trump press conference at the top of the hour. That's how you answer if you don't know what's going on and you don't know what to do. The question was perfectly fine and reasonable. It was, to be perfectly honest, it was a freaking softball question. Any other president would be able to take that and turn it into a 30-second inspirational soundbite. Trump has to attack the messenger on it, and it is not looking good whatsoever. Okay, number two. There's been a lot of promise. I have a list. I make a list for all of these streams where I have things I want to mention to you guys. There have been things promised over the last 8 days that just aren't happening. So last Friday, Donald Trump promised this website where you would be able to type in your symptoms. It would give you information. It would assess whether you should get a test and tell you where the closest place is to get a test. What happened? Nobody's even talking about that anymore. That promise was made 8 days ago. We don't have it. Number two, checks. Checks supposedly are coming to people. Every single day since last week, we've been hearing about the checks are going, we're going to send money. Is it going to be 1,000 or 1,200 or 2,000 in one installment, in two installments? What are we going to do for small businesses? We need something for small businesses. We got nothing. Okay. And every day we hear a new proposal. And this is why when in the super chat, people say, David, can you comment on X or Y proposal? Until something becomes a reality, I don't think it's worth wasting your time commenting on hypothetical proposals. We need to get money to people. Yesterday, I was at, I did some shopping at Trader Joe's in Brookline, as I mentioned, and I went over to Michael's Deli, great deli in Brookline, picked up some pastrami, some knishes, just the staples, you know. And I was talking with Steve, who owns it, about how at some point, you know, mortgages, there's going to need to be some kind of postponing rent for businesses. If you even want businesses to stay open on a takeout only basis or whatever to feed people, the landlords still want the rent from the business. So you're going to have to do something about that, because otherwise you're going to have businesses saying, I'm just walking away. I'll just shut down. I'm not going to work to lose money because of the rent that I can't make. I'll just walk away from the business, and then it's going to be compounding economic disaster. So in any case, we haven't seen any of that stuff whatsoever. Okay, for people wondering what's going on, you haven't missed anything. We're 7 minutes from the scheduled start of today's press conference. They've tended to start late, and we are live on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. If you have any questions, comments, anything, if you're watching on YouTube, send it by super chat, and it'll pop up in that gray box, which is sadly empty right now in the lower left of the screen. If you're watching on Twitch, you can include a message with your Twitch subscription, Prime or otherwise, and it'll show up in that vertical blue rectangle at the top. And then if you really want to support the work that we are doing, we've been covering these streams every day with your commentary. Remember to grab a membership at joinpacman.com. YouTube, what are called YouTube CPMs are down about 20, 30, 40%, and it's getting pretty ugly out there. Now, I'm hearing from people that this has been rescheduled. Let me see. President Trump schedule today. I don't believe it has, but let's just take a look at it. According to Trump's schedule today, it's interesting. It's on Trump's schedule at both 12 and 12:30. Either way, we'll be here until it starts. Let me show you. I always check out Trump's schedule for the day. You'll notice it's often very, very light. Often very little on the schedule. Today, we have a 12 briefing, and now it also says 12:30 briefing. So it's conceivably possible that it did get rescheduled for 12:30. and then Trump has a 2 p.m. phone call, and that's it, guys. Otherwise, it's just tweeting and, Fox News and, golf simulator at the White House and stuff like that. But this is Trump's full schedule today in the midst of in the midst of a growing major crisis. Fry Salt says via super chat, 55% of America approves of Trump's response. That's insane. I saw that. Jay Harper says, guys, like the video. Yes, remember, if you are watching on YouTube, hit like for this stream and make sure to hit subscribe. We've got 3,000 people watching and only 300 likes. That's sad. It depresses me when I see that. I guess people are maybe furious with me for some reason that I can't discern. Over on Twitch, let me say thanks to 503 Phoenix for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Okay, so we did the Peter Alexander clip. We talked about where's all that promised stuff. I talked about I want reporters just repeating the same question and essentially forcing Trump to either answer it or walk off stage. Okay. One of the lies that we keep hearing every day is anybody who wants a test can get one, blah, 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 right? So, and that's not true. Now, I spoke to a friend yesterday. This friend is experiencing symptoms and works somewhere where there was a known coronavirus case at this person's job. So symptoms within 5 days of someone with coronavirus having been there. This person needs to be tested. This person also has kids. And this person asked their doctor, so what do I do? The doctor said, listen, don't come in. We're really busy. Just call if your symptoms get worse. Okay, well, what about isolating from my kids? Well, listen, you haven't tested positive at this point, so don't worry too much about that. I haven't tested positive because I haven't been tested. This is like saying, I have great news. You've not failed the math test. Well, the math test is tomorrow. What can we really glean anything from the fact that I've not failed the test I haven't taken? This is happening everywhere. And every single day, Donald Trump continues to insist we've got more than enough tests. For 14 days now, they've been saying every day we are adding tens of thousands of tests per day in capacity. So understand what that means, right? 14 days ago, if their capacity was 5,000, they say we're adding 20,000. So you should be able to do 25,000 a day. Day 2, you should be able to do 45,000 a day. Day 3, you should be able to do 65,000 a day. Look at the numbers of tests done. It's not happening. It's just flat out not happening. And it's quite frankly stunning that these talking points are even allowed by the press corps at this point in time. Walker Anderson says, are Bernie supporters refusing to vote Biden in the general, effectively admitting Trump isn't that bad? Trump gets an unfair shake. He has pros and cons. Hurricane Brenda says, where is Joe Biden? He's missing till Monday. Monday, he's going to reappear. Nancy Bernard says, I've been a member since 2013. Thank you for your great work, David. I'm an essential retail worker in San Francisco. Tell people to stay home while on shelter in. Yeah, a friend of mine sent me a message today. Let me pull it up, and said, hey, I'm starting to think my trip to Europe in 3 weeks might not happen, but maybe a slim chance I could. Are you making other travel plans? Are you traveling in the U.S.? And I said, no, I'm not even leaving my house other than to get groceries and walk around, in the outdoors, not exposed, far from people. Everything's canceled. Why are you even leaving your house unless necessary? We may have a shelter in place soon. Like, these are friends of mine that I consider to be quite competent, quite frankly. And so this is why, then you hear Republican congressmen are having group lunches at restaurants that they're thrilled are empty and now they can get a nice table at because everybody's supposed to be staying home. I mean, we're screwed. We're screwed. Yesterday, I canceled 3 flights. It was 2 with American and 1 with Delta. And you don't even have to call. You can cancel. I immediately got a full credit, even though they were non-refundable flights, no change fee. I called the hotel in Miami where I was scheduled to stay in a few days and said, I'm canceling. They said, can you tell us the reason why? I said, yeah, coronavirus is the reason why. So, yeah. Listen, by the way, people who are talking about so I have to talk about something else. I need to excuse me while I absolutely unleash a brutal ban hammer on people both on YouTube and on Twitch. Just give me a second here. I'm banning people by the dozens because we have stuff going on. Listen, I know some people might think it's funny to start saying take ibuprofen if you think you have coronavirus. You guys have to cut the shit, okay? And for people who don't know, there's a question now as to whether ibuprofen actually worsens symptoms. And there's an article from yesterday that teenagers are finding it funny to go to grocery stores and cough on produce, on fruits and vegetables. We're just not going to do it, okay? So people, my moderators, please, if you see people doing this stuff, you got to we're dropping the ban hammer right away. Okay, we're not going to play around with that, and obviously with the anti-Semitism as well. Although there's been a little bit less of the anti-Semitism as this has been going on, but we're not doing any of that stuff. These are perma bans. All right, thank you. Okay, Chris says, where is Biden? The Dems should be having him all over the place to make him look like he's taking leadership on this, even social media speeches. Yeah, Joe Biden has been Joe Biden lately. But I've read that starting Monday, he's going to be doing shadow press conferences, basically just parallel press conferences, coronavirus briefings to Donald Trump. So we will see. Oh, people are asking about free stuff from the David Pakman Show store with memberships. Yes. So what we did yesterday, and this actually worked really well. What I used to do was I would say, right now we're at 0 new members, by the way, which is depressing. It's horrible, horrible, horrible. But eventually, I think someone will sign up. Up until yesterday, what I was doing was I would say new member number 5 or 10 or whatever will get a free item from my store, like the infamous Data Mail T-shirt. And people said, David, that's not a good idea because everybody will wait until you get to 4 to try to be number 5. So what we did yesterday was I will just give out a free item for every 5 memberships. We'll contact people 1 out of every 5. So like yesterday during the stream, we had 13 people sign up. So we did 2 free items. We contacted them. Everybody wants the Data Mail T-shirt. It's hilarious. We've shipped these already to 7 countries, and more coming in. The most popular color is heather gray. I ordered one in white, and I'm waiting on it right now. But so for every 5 subscribers. Sorry about that, guys. I hit the wrong button there. I apologize for that. I apologize. I think I might have. I don't think you were able to hear me when I said Bernie Cohn Marie has gifted 4 subscriptions, which I love, and Ruakad has also everything falling off the walls here. Ruakad also subscribing on Twitch. Very very much appreciated. Okay. One other thing that I want to talk about. Let's see if we can do a little data and math. I'll just turn the volume up here so we won't miss that. So one of the, I think it's really important that we don't minimize or go crazy over what's going on, but everybody just needs to be staying the hell in their house, period. And that's it. Okay. But I do want to talk about one piece of math, which is the growth factor. Okay. So the growth factor is the rate at which cases are growing over the previous day's cases. Okay, so when you look at total cases, daily new cases, obviously this doesn't look good. But when we're talking about viral spread, there's a question of, is the rate of growth increasing? Okay, this is sort of like it's a calculus sort of thing. So it's a really important thing to understand. Let me see if I can pull up. Maybe calculator is useful for this. Let's see if we can do this. So lately, as you can see, the growth factor has been right around, call it 1.2. If the growth factor itself continues to increase, that's much worse than a steady growth factor, which still leads to more cases. So imagine that one day you have 1,000 new cases, and then the next day you have 1,100 new cases, okay? That is a growth factor of what we would call 1.1. Now, the thing about that is then if from one day to the next, you add another 10%, you now have, but you would then get to 1,210 new cases. And then you would get to, what would that be? 210, 1,340, whatever. The number of new cases can continue to increase every single day without an increase in the growth factor. And obviously, unless and until you get the growth factor under 1, the problem will keep getting worse. But imagine how much worse it would be if the growth factor was going from 1.2 to 1.3 to 1.4 to 1.5. Before you know it, you're really far from getting it to 1. What is the only piece of slightly okay information that I have for you today is that the growth factor, as we have so many new cases and community spread, is sticking between 1.15 and 1.3. This means, hopefully, that within a few more days, we will start to see the effect. Because remember, when we learn about a new case, that's usually a case from 7 to 10 days prior. If you have your first symptom on day 1 and you go to the hospital on day 5 and you get a test on day 6 and you get results on day 8, we see a case that is actually 8 days old. That's why these measures take a while to see. What we will hopefully see is that the growth factor will start to decline, or at least not increase, and that is often how these things spread and the numbers that we see. I'm finding something, right? And then of course there's this issue of if we aren't testing, then the growth factor will be artificially low. And on that note, in fact, let's go to the official numbers. The official numbers are now almost 300,000 with 12,000 deaths. This number has got to be millions, guys. I mean, it's like there's places in Africa where we think there are no cases. They're just not testing. There are cases. The United States, if you look at the numbers in the United States, 22,000. We obviously have way, way, way more than that. And one thing that is also very concerning is it takes a very long time to recover. The U.S. now has 22,000 official cases, and we know of 147 recoveries. There have been more deaths than recoveries. The recovery is often taking longer than the death. I believe that it's something like, on average, 17 days for cases that end in death. It takes 17 days on average to get there. Recoveries are often taking longer than that. So I'm not going to downplay that it's a shit show. If we can keep that growth factor relatively low fair point. There may be some not good reporting of recoveries. That's fair, or it may be delayed. But it's getting very, very ugly, guys. It's getting very ugly. Everybody's got to stay the hell home. That's what I'm doing, and I'm going stir crazy. Okay, let me thank a few people who have grabbed memberships. Veza Vaherma, geez, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is new member number 1 today. I appreciate that. Thank you for signing up. Jonathan Tsamantanis is new member number 2 at joinpacman.com. And Blake Strode is new member number 3. I also want to thank Ben Taylor. Ben Taylor has just ordered. Oh, it's not a Beta Male t-shirt. Oh, no, it's a David Pakman Show t-shirt. Okay, very, very good. But the Beta Male t-shirts are widely available, and they are flying out. They are flying out. Not from here. We don't have any here, but from the manufacturer. Okay, we are standing by for the start of Donald Trump's emergency press conference. And by emergency, I mean he can't stop lying, and that's the emergency. That's what's an emergency about it. If you're just joining us on YouTube, please make sure to like the stream and to hit subscribe. If you are watching on Twitch, make sure to follow. I want to thank Comstock Rocker for subscribing for the 5th month in a row with Twitch Prime. I appreciate that. And also everybody watching on Facebook, I also appreciate you guys. I know Facebook doesn't provide great tools for having you send comments and whatnot while we are live. The interface is it's a mess. But I appreciate everybody who's been watching on Facebook as well. Okay, let me do a couple other super chats which have been flying in here. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Constance Neal says, are you satisfied with Democrats in Congress responses? Well, I'm not satisfied with the fact that we still don't have any checks or small business support. How much of it is Democrats, Republicans' fault? I don't know. But overall, our leaders are failing us. Thanks to Jigged1 for the Twitch Prime subscription. Appreciate that as well. Kowalski from Nebraska says, where do I send your steaks? You're going to have to email me about that. We do have a P.O. box where we have someone in a hazmat suit grab the mail for safety reasons. But I don't know if you send them with dry ice or how it all works. Haruka Goto says, due to racists like Trump, I'm afraid to visit the USA. Well, listen, nobody should be traveling anywhere at this point in time. Mark Davis says, hello from nowhere, Kansas, home of the Spanish flu. That's right. The Spanish flu, widely considered to have originated either in Kansas, France, or there's one other place. There's one other place that don't remember now where it is. Jamal Swift says, hi, DP. Thank you, Jamal. Charlie says, did you see Trump's tweet about the meds? Yeah, again, sometimes it's like a little bit of information is worse than total ignorance. Donald Trump tweeted earlier today. And again, I tweeted about this a week ago, right? So this is not, I'll just tell you what he said. Hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin taken together have a real chance to be one of the biggest game changers in the history of medicine. The FDA has moved mountains. Thank you. Hopefully they will both. Hydrochloroquine works better with azithromycin. International Journal of Microbial Agents. Be put in use immediately. People are dying. Move fast, and God bless everyone. So listen, I have been from day one. If you guys have been watching my channel, you would have known a week ago about hydroxychloroquine plus azithromycin. It's a non-blinded small study from a medical, not a medical, from a doctor, a medical doctor is what I mean, done in France, named Didier Rao, and it's enough that it means we should be studying it, okay? But we don't yet know whether it's going to be an effective treatment. And one of the important things is when the study is not blinded to the doctor. If I'm a doctor and I have 50 patients and I know which ones get the hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin and which ones don't, I may have an implicit bias. I may give that treatment to patients that I believe are more likely to do better with it, or patients that are more likely to recover anyway, spontaneously. This is why these things have to be blinded. The patients need to not know who's getting which treatment. The doctors need to not know who's getting which treatment, because otherwise there's experimenter's bias and all of this other stuff. So it is not enough data. It is promising. It is promising. But Donald Trump is tweeting stuff like this, which is irresponsible, acting like we may have a cure. And then you've got Republicans, including members of Congress and just, dumb Republican voters who are going around, going to restaurants and saying it's all overblown and it's all a hoax and whatever the case may be. We are still standing by for the press conference at the top of the hour. Okay. Let me say thanks to a few new people who have signed up here. Let me see. I don't want to miss anybody. I don't want to miss a single person here. John McCormick is new member number 4 today. Thanks, John. Appreciate that. And Philip Boyle is new member number 5. Every 5, we're doing a free item from the store. So that's one free item. One of the first 5, you'll get an email after the stream telling you who gets the free item from the store. Moving on. Let me say thanks to Mikhail Davis, who has grabbed a Data Mail t-shirt from the website. And also want to say thanks to Mark Davis, who's new member number 6 today. Bo Malmgren is new member number 7 today at joinpacman.com. And Max, I don't know how to pronounce this. Is it a silent J? Is it Max Thiessen, who is new member number 8 today? Silent J's are less common in English, I must say. Oh, and also Julie Cajola. Julie Cajola is new member number 9. Also want to say thanks to Chris Simpson, who has grabbed a Data Mail t-shirt. We'll be getting that out to Virginia very, very soon. I guess this press conference has been rescheduled for 12:30. Originally, this was on Trump's calendar at noon. It's not been removed. It's just that now there's another entry at 12:30 that it will be a Donald Trump press briefing. To catch you up on what we've gone through so far, we played the Peter Alexander clip. You know what? Let me just play it one more time just because we have time. This was Trump yesterday being asked a total softball question and by Peter Alexander and just lashing out and attacking the reporter. And, this was a moment where he could have been presidential. He was not.
Sir, nearly 200 John, go ahead. Dead. What do you say to Americans who are scared, though? I guess nearly 200 dead, 14,000 who are sick, millions, as you witnessed, who are scared right now. What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say. Go ahead. I think it's a very nasty question.
Nasty.
And I think it's a very bad signal that you're putting out to the American people. The American people are looking for answers and they're looking for hope. And you're doing sensationalism. And the same with NBC and Comcast. I don't call it Comcast. I call it Concast. Let me just for whom you work. Let me just say something. That's really bad reporting. And you ought to get back to reporting instead of...
What's funny is there was no reporting. He simply said a lot of people are scared. What do you say to them? People are dying. That's not... who's questioning that? It's not reporting. It's a question.
Sensationalism. Let's see if it works. It might and it might not. I happen to feel good about it, but who knows? I've been right a lot. Let's see what happens, John.
Anyway, so we watched that earlier today. We looked at some of the growth rate math. I mentioned that a lot of things that have been promised, including the website that will sort of triage symptoms and direct you to a testing center, that was promised 8 days ago. We don't have it. Checks were promised last week. Small business support was promised last week. We don't have any of it. And most importantly, I pointed out, these press briefings have become completely delusional. They are just riddled with Donald Trump lying and lying and lying and lying. We need to see the press corps hold him accountable. What's happening is absolutely and completely toxic. And I would prefer just to be hearing from medical professionals. I think the press briefings would be far more informative if we heard just from Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx. And in fact, I would say I would prefer to hear from them without Trump even on the stage. I think Trump's mere presence on the stage impacts a little bit of what we hear from Dr. Birx and Fauci, because obviously what they know is true is the opposite of what Trump says. They're being careful when Trump is on stage. I think we just shouldn't even have Trump on the stage whatsoever. Okay. Other super chats coming in. And remember, if you're just joining us, this was rescheduled from 12 to 12:30, and we're expecting to get live video from the room pretty soon. Tavares Griffin says, I work at the airport in Atlanta. None of the employees are being tested. We had 2 TSA agents infected here, and they're still not testing us. Yep, it's just happening. Brody Andrew Mulligan says, reminder, Medical Reserve Corps needs volunteers. Hurricane Brenda says, what good are my taxes and small business taxes if the government isn't going to help them? Yeah. Arnie Klingman has grabbed a YouTube membership. It's Wern 2K9 says, huge game change on virus. Google the Kalergi plan. You know what? I don't know what that is, and it could be horrible. Sometimes people say crazy, crazy things. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm going to have to read more about that. Yeah, because that seems to be a neo-Nazi thing. So we're not, I don't know about that. Number 420 Pencil and Laura O'Connor, as well as Travis Benji, have grabbed YouTube subscriptions. Truth is Nuanced says political ideology is thrown at the window in times like these. Trump is a socialist and Trudeau is a xenophone. Xenophone. That's interesting. Nick One says, David, is it possible Trump downplayed COVID so long to ensure his buddies all got out of the market before February 24? I posted about this on your subreddit too. Yeah, I tweeted about this earlier. Let me show you. By the way, always feel free to retweet anything that I put out there. Let's see. Where was it? I said, now that we learned about the Republican stock dumps, is it possible Trump downplayed coronavirus for weeks specifically to allow his friends time? Oh, I put to dump stock before the crash. I just realized 1,000 likes on that tweet. That's not bad. I didn't even notice that. Now, by the way, a lot of people are saying, didn't Dianne Feinstein dump too? Or are we calling her? No, guys, Dianne Feinstein, from what I've read, was not at the briefing in which these other Republicans learned the apocalypse is coming. And Dianne Feinstein's trades are bad trades. Dianne Feinstein apparently sold a healthcare stock before coronavirus. Healthcare stocks likely to be good investments. So I don't know that the Dianne Feinstein thing is relevant to what we're talking about. Let me say thank you to let's see. LOL Relto has grabbed a Twitch Prime subscription. Political Puppy has gifted a subscription. Kong Koro has subscribed with Prime. And Bernie Cone Marie has cheered 1,000 bits. Thank you very much. Let me say thanks to some other folks who are signing up here. Let's see here. Okay. Mikhail Davis is new member number 10. 10 means we're going to give out a second item from the store. Appreciate that. Rose-colored glasses. A user named Rose-colored glasses is new member number 11. Richard Steven is new member number 12. Thanks, Richard. Shiloh Jones is new member number 13. Maybe it's just Jones. And Michelle Mayfield Baskey is new member number 14. We'll give away another free item at number 15. We may be anywhere from 10 to 40 minutes from the start of this. Donald Trump has been remarkably consistently starting late during these press conferences. Other super chats continuing to come in. Transdroid86 says, officials at my job determine our ability to work by assessing whether or not we look contagious. Scary thought as I work in pediatric oncology. That is horrifying. That is horrifying. I have friends who are doctors here in the Boston area, and things are being taken pretty seriously here. But even still, like I have a friend who's a doctor, just got back from Europe, and they said, you've got to quarantine. We're giving you a test the day you get back, and you've got to quarantine 14 days before you can come back to work. And he said, great, what about groceries? And they said, I don't know, just kind of do whatever you need to do. Okay. I mean, these are tough questions. I'm not pretending that there's easy answers to these questions. Richard Smerglia, as well as Jamie Soto and Ananda Mide have grabbed YouTube subscriptions. Heath Evans says, I'm from Wyoming, and many here think this isn't a big deal. I've seen couples and families with multiple children walking the stores. We're screwed. I fear that you are correct, my friend. I fear that you are correct. Let's see. I'm getting a notification that the YouTube video is maybe not happening super smooth right now. Can people on YouTube tell me whether everything's still okay on YouTube? Because I got some... I'm getting a notification that the YouTube video is maybe problematic right now. Same on Twitch. Oh, there might have just been a glitch there. Let me know if we've recovered, guys. Some skipping. Okay, yeah. It seems like there was a little bit of an interference in my internet tubes. It's choppy, had to refresh. Okay. Hopefully it... let me just see here. Let me just refresh something just to see if we can get that back under control. I think that it's possible my internet connection might have glitched just very, very briefly. Hopefully we're back. Okay, we seem to be back. All right, very good. Okay, I think that we're okay now. All right, continuing to read super chats. Let me see here. We skipped to the bottom. Where I want to make sure I don't miss any. H. Charlie Bodkin, the PBS NewsHour stream is better than NBC's. Okay, let me find that. PBS NewsHour. Sometimes it's hard to find their live stream. PBS Live. Let's take a look here. Here it is. Oh, good. And they have video inside the room. I like that. Just so we know we're not missing it, Here we go. Very nice. Okay, good. Now it looks like they have these big orange signs and saying only sit in these seats. It's a sort of social distancing thing that they are doing in the press briefing room. Okay, good. So we're standing by. If you're just joining us on YouTube, remember, like the stream and subscribe. It really does help us out. We do have a hype train in progress over on Twitch as well, which is always exciting. Mike Jones says, work IT at nursing home with cases, no tests. Hearing it everywhere. Diamond Scout has subscribed. Grandma's Boy says, I'm a mailman working through this. What are your thoughts? I don't know. It seems to me that if the mail stops, that is problematic, even for dealing with what we're dealing with. But the person who delivers my mail, she's not wearing a mask. She's wearing gloves. But she said, I'm handling all of this mail, and there are different thoughts about how long it can live on cardboard, on paper, which they're handling all the time. It's concerning. Caleb Hall says, hey, David, do you know the logistics behind getting a vaccine to go from clinical trials and out to the public? Any specific idea why it would take 12 to 18 months even after a working vaccine? Yeah, so, I mean, again, this is from what I've read. Once you get to the point where you can have your first human volunteers, the first tests are merely, not even does the vaccine work, Are there safety issues? Or is the vaccine well tolerated? So you've got to get past that. Then you need to start testing the vaccine in different doses to see which dose triggers the ideal antibody response. But then you've got to measure that. If it triggers an antibody response for a week and then a month later you no longer have the antibodies, it's not a very effective vaccine, because then after a month you can get infected again. That's why it's a long process. And, for example, there's an Israeli research lab that already had a coronavirus vaccine for poultry before this started. They very quickly modified it into one that can work in humans, but now they've got to do animal trials. Then they've got to do the first human trials. A lot of this is why it takes a long time. Okay, let me thank a few other subscribers on my website. Joanne Kyleman is new member number 15. That means we're giving out a third item today. Thanks to Philip A. for ordering a t-shirt on my website. Danny Beggin is new member number 16 at joinpacman.com, and Alistair Hood is new member number 17 at joinpacman.com. At 20, we will also randomly give away another t-shirt or coffee mug from the website. Looks like we are getting closer to the start of this press conference, maybe just a few minutes away at this point in time. Hamiltonian says they say the supply chain is okay, but we've been out 3 times over the last few weeks and it's worse each time. No TP, dwindling food, etc. Hamiltonian, I'd be curious where you live, because here in Massachusetts, we experienced that right away, but that was like 2 weeks ago. Since, people seem to be much more calm. Yesterday, I went to the Brookline Trader Joe's. They basically had everything, and it wasn't busy. People seem to have slowed down the panic buying. I think places that are realizing the severity later are having the panic buying, and then hopefully it's going to be slowing down. John Sebastian Pinero says, hey, David, be honest. Do you think Pedro is really from Colombia? He sounds like a troll. I think that he probably, at this point, I think that he probably is a troll. We can listen to that together. I tweeted it earlier. Let me see here. Check this out. Tell me what you think of this, guys. Okay, let's go to the phones. Let's go to the phones. A very crazy week and a lot of people wanting to chat. The number is 617-830-4750. Let's pick up first on our caller from the 806 area code. Caller from 806, what's your name? Where are you calling from today?
Hola, is this me?
Yes, it is.
Hola, Pacman. It's Pedro from Colombia.
Hola, ¿cómo estás hoy, Pedro?
Estoy bien,
Bien.
I haven't talked to you in a while, so, I had a question for you.
Sí, ¿cuándo me habías llamado? Hace un tiempo, ¿no? ¿Hace cuánto tiempo?
Era como un mes,
Sí,
but,
claro.
I'd rather speak in Spanish, because, I'm trying to learn, not in Spanish, but in English,
Yeah, last time you called, people thought that you were fake and you didn't really speak Spanish, but I guess you do.
Oh, yes, I like speaking Spanish, but, my wife and I are trying to learn English, so, I'm just trying to speak it right now, and I get it a lot from watching you, Mr. Pacman,
Una pregunta más en español. ¿De qué ciudad en Colombia sos?
Soy del Capital.
El Capital.
Anyway,
El Capital. Anyway, it's all weird. I don't know what the deal is with this guy, but the thing is, he clearly doesn't have a Colombian accent in Spanish, and it's all weird. But increasingly, people think that's a troll. It's odd. It's odd. Okay. Jameson Shalpy says, how do you think Trump's disastrous response to the crisis will affect support from many Trumpists and diehard Republicans? They seem to be more supportive of Trump, shockingly. Somehow support for Trump has gone up during this fiasco. Bob 225-ish says, I won't vote Trump, but I won't vote DNC. When they were losing, they were talking about stealing. I'm not even sure if I trust the results. That's fine. You're going to help Trump get reelected. If you don't care about that, that's fine. Cecilia Aronin has grabbed a YouTube subscription. Sam Rosenberg says, keep up the great work, David. What do you think the penalty, if any, will be for the senators found to be selling stock while lying about COVID? I think the penalty will be nothing. Tagar Ian says, David, the guitar store I work at is still open. Gotta close. Christopher Hellstrom, you think it was the right decision to close the schools in America, causing parents having to be at home instead of being in the hospitals, preschools, etc. Listen, every decision has a downside, but can you imagine how much worse this would be if every school continued to be open? It would be absolutely insane. Hurricane Brenda says, thought on ICE arresting COVID-19 patients. I mean, listen, it's like the cherry on top. What can you even say? It's just one additional completely crazy thing that's going on. William Scott says, hi, David, from SMT Silicon Molding Technologies for all of silicon molding needs. Alex Jones says, difference between collectivism and leftism. Oh boy, that exceeds the scope of today's stream. Jamal Swift says, can you explain the details of the Fed offering $1.75 trillion to banks earlier this week? Is this more corporate socialism, or am I misunderstanding? The idea is to provide liquidity that the banks can then use. The banks are tightening up, right? And the idea is, oh, hold on, excuse me. Are things getting out of control in the chat again? Because I'm getting a lot of calls that the moderators need to wake up. Remember, we use a light touch. Conservatism is fine. Ignorance is fine, but we don't tolerate we don't tolerate personal attacks, hate speech, pseudoscience, promoting pseudoscience cures or anything like that. Just keep an eye out, guys, because I'm getting a lot of alerts that we may be losing control. The idea is essentially to force banks to provide liquidity. Is the gist of it, and I've got a full segment on it on my YouTube channel. Jason Franson says, I read that we're doing such little testing that the positive rate has gone from 2 to 10%. So we are increasingly underestimating the growth rate. That may well be. That may well be. NG Lin has subscribed on YouTube. Jamal Swift says 175 billion. I knew what you meant. Tristan McCoppin says, seems like many people in the USA and Australia are just business as usual, despite possibly millions of deaths coming. What do you think? Yeah, some people here's the thing we have to realize. There's a cohort that whenever it ends will never have paid attention. And because they didn't die or go to the hospital, they'll believe it was all overblown. Those people we just have to ignore because we can't do anything about it. At some point, if there is a forced lockdown, maybe they'll be affected. We need to work around them. And sadly, the problem is every one of those people means we need like 7 people to be behaving correctly. It's a shit show. I understand. Trust me. Let me say thanks to Connor Brenner. Connor is new member number 18 today, new member number 18 at joinpacman.com. Janet Tucker is new member number 19 at joinpacman.com. And Casey Brinigar is new member number 20 at joinpacman.com. 20 means a 4th free item from the David Pakman Show store will be given out to 4 of these 20 new members. And at 25, we'll give out a 5th item. Extremely exciting. If you're just joining us, we originally this was scheduled for 12. It was rescheduled for 12:30, and now we are waiting. It looks like maybe because it's Saturday, we have second stringers from a lot of the media outlets. I don't see Peter Alexander sitting in this seat. I don't see what's that guy's name? John. Is it John Roberts who normally sits here? Caitlin Collins usually sits in this front right seat from CNN. It looks like this may be the weekend crew. And I don't know what that will mean in terms of the caliber of the questions. The questions may be better with the second stringers because they may be less concerned in general about Trump getting mad at them. I don't know. We're going to see. Thanks to Super Zero for the Twitch Prime subscription, saying, I miss Obama. At least it's not zombies. It could always be worse. We could be dealing with coronavirus and zombies. Cactus Jack has subscribed with Prime. And Mr. Meow TV has subscribed with Prime. I also want to say thanks to everybody who's sending super chats, and I'm going to continue answering some of those now. Okay. Jose Vasquez says, what is their justification for the July-August timeline? Who knows? I mean, honestly, at this point, everybody's guessing. July, August would be based on another 6 weeks of increase, and then the beginning of a decline, maybe. A lot of this stuff is just guesses right now. J.R. Weaver has grabbed a YouTube subscription. Pine Soul says, my wife is an RN in Pennsylvania, almost out of masks and gowns, Board of Health declining their COVID tests. It's happening everywhere. It's overwhelming how it is happening everywhere. The president of Mass General Hospital here in Boston tweeted or told a reporter 2 days ago, tell people with 3D printers to download the plans for printing 3D printing masks. Tell them to start printing. A friend of mine who's a doctor here in Boston, who's currently quarantined because he was in Europe. After quarantine, he's going back to work. He was on a conference call where he was told, you are going to have to ration the masks and wear the same mask all day. And he's very worried about it because normally he would put on, when you're dealing with something like this, normally you would put on a mask and then put on the faceplate over it. And then you would do your thing. You leave the room. You lift the faceplate, throw the mask out. You go into another room with another patient. You put a new mask on and drop the faceplate over it. And he's being told he's going to need to wear that same mask the entire time. And that's not good. If you're just joining us on YouTube, please, I humbly ask you to hit like and subscribe. We've had 40,000 different people come on through the stream so far, and only 2,000 have hit like. That's 5%. That's low. Let's bring that up. I think we could instantly get to 10,000 likes. Well, no, that's not true. We could get to 5,000 likes. Let me put it that way. And people have been asking what's going on with subscriptions. We're only 100 subscribers from 817,000. There's 6,000 people watching. If just a few of you hit that subscribe button, we are going to crush 817. We could get to 820,000 if people, we're all doing our part. By the way, just so people know, if when I mention something about the number of subscribers, you post an anti-Semitic comment in the chat, we will ban you. We will ban you because we just don't tolerate that. And we have moderators that they know what to look for. They know what to look for, my friends. A. Owens says, whoops, just missed a whole bunch of these. Hold on. Where did A. Owens go? A. Owens says, are you the Dave Rubin of the left? No. Thorolfer Beck says, mandatory quarantine in Bermuda next to a pink beach. Thank God for small mercies, I guess, but I have horrible survivor guilt. Fight on. Quinn Reed says, are vet hospitals considered an essential service? That may be a state level designation. I don't know that there's a federal answer to that. Michael Norman says, I do in-home family therapy in Western Massachusetts. And yesterday I was told to, and up to yesterday, I was told to still have visits. Now strongly encouraged to do telehealth calls. Yeah, my girlfriend's a psychotherapist, and she is doing all telehealth. Angelo Lopez sent a $300 super chat and retracted the message. Angelo, I would have loved to have heard what you had on your mind with that incredibly generous contribution of $300. Ali Sheikh says, mailman, that's sexist. Oh boy. Breaking news, Feinstein and husband sold $5 million of aloe down to 27%. I did not read that. I will investigate for sure. Dennis Burmistrov says, Marentha holding Trump back again. Nick Biv sends a super chat. Hamiltonian says, Baltimore suburbs supply shortage. Okay. Lore M. Ipsum says David's hair originated in a wet market in Wuhan. It did, yeah. Because it's Saturday. Let's see. I'll just do the rest of the stream like this. I think it's fine, right? I just have to lower my chair is the only thing. There we go. Otherwise, I'm out of the shot. Beautiful. All right, very good. Okay. Other people to thank. I want to say thanks to Emmanuel Davis, who's new member number 21 today at joinpacman.com. James Scully is number 22 at joinpacman.com. Thank you very much. Very much appreciate that. You can grab a membership, if you please, at joinpacman.com. Okay. Over on Twitch, let me say thank you to Electric Head PT65, who subscribed with Prime. Silence Has Fallen Ack subscribed with Prime as well. And I think I already thanked Mr. Meow TV as well. We should be just, I mean, now we're 40 minutes past the original time for this press conference and 10 minutes past the new time. So it should be starting very soon. Thanks, S. Waverly, for the subscription on YouTube. Shaney says, what is your thought on the government forcing Americans to stay inside? Would it make Trump a dictator? Some say he should force, some say he shouldn't. Listen, I have a segment on my YouTube channel about this. Even a shelter in place, when we had remember the Boston Marathon bombing here in Boston? When that happened, there was a shelter in place here. It was not enforced by force at the time, but people did it because there were armed murderers walking around Boston, right? So the question of whether it is going to be a forced thing comes down to enforcement typically at the state level. Or you could imagine, like, does the National Guard get involved? But for the most part, like, my brother's under shelter in place in California. He's not forced to stay inside, but he's doing it. And, you know, the question of force, I think, is not even the right one at this point. It's, can we even get people to understand the severity of what's going on? Looks like we're about to start, as most of the seats now are taken. Tom Santiago has grabbed a YouTube subscription. Thespos, Arizona, says, curious to your thoughts as to whether Fox and others are liable for their behavior in downplaying the virus and purposely misinforming the public. You know, legal liability would be difficult, but certainly they are morally liable. Nick Biv says, David, 80% of postal workers are over 45 years old. We will die. The postal service might have to get shut down. 507 Performance sends a super chat. Gibbles Bits says, Yang was invited to Capitol Hill to give a talk about the benefits of UBI. Humanity Forward is giving out $1 million in relief to New York City residents. I did see that. Arbuckle says, sos un maestro, che. El colombiano es trucho. I love it. So this is with Argentinian conjugation telling me I'm a teacher and saying the so-called Colombian is a fake or a troll. Martin Culver sends a super chat. Ian Pitchford says, keep up the good work, David. Emmett says, can we all get a free Blinkist subscription if Trump makes no pronunciation errors in this speech? It was so funny when Trump the day that 2 days ago, the minute Trump said there are some promising treatments, I immediately said, there's no way he pronounces chloroquine and remdesivir correctly. And indeed, remdesivir became mangled into rum reservoir. Yeah. Let's see here. Here in the Netherlands, panic buying just won't stop, going on for over a week. Mom works in a store. People refuse to keep a distance. Horrible. Martin Culver says, any good websites for hospitalization stats? Well, the Worldometers does have this issue of serious or critical. You can assume serious or critical is hospitalization. It's not completely precise. I don't know if at this point we have anything better, especially because remember that a lot of the people being hospitalized with presumptive cases aren't even being tested. Sometimes because they don't have, okay, people are saying the hair is too much. So let me fix it. That it's just a distraction. There we go. Very good. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. A lot of people aren't being tested, sometimes because they don't have tests, sometimes because it would not change the treatment protocol. That's what we're reading at this point. Bob 225ish says, if you live in purple, vote Biden. If not, don't. Maury P says, I love you, D. Vacation plans after Corona. So right now, I have nothing planned whatsoever. I have nothing. I canceled on Wednesday. I was supposed to fly to Miami, canceled my flight there, canceled my flight back, canceled my hotel. In April, I was supposed to go to a conference in Vegas. Oh, I still have a tough sticking. Listen, it's not going to be perfect. I'm sorry. I was supposed to go to Vegas in April. That's canceled. I am supposed to appear on the Joe Rogan show soon. I'm not saying exactly when, but I don't know what's going to happen. I'm supposed to appear on Joe Rogan's show with another person. And I've been talking to that person about what are we going to do. And we just don't know. We just don't know yet. Let me say thank you to Shreyansh Pandey, who is new member number 23 today. Matt Lawson is new member number 24 today. Jacob Radka is new member number 25 today. Appreciate that. We got to 25. Let's go for 50. Let's go for 50. Why not? Let's do it. If you're just joining us, you might be confused. You might have first said, wasn't this thing scheduled for noon? And yes, it originally was. Then another duplicate entry showed up at 12:30 for the press briefing. And we are now at 12:45 p.m. Eastern time. And still nothing. Although it seems like we are getting close. If you're joining on Twitch, remember to follow my channel. We're almost at 31,000 followers. If you're joining on YouTube, please make sure to like the stream as well as to subscribe. Where are we? We are just 75 subscribers shy of 817,000. We are 75 shy of rolling over. And by the way, we're just, I mean, who knows why this hasn't started yet. So I'm going to do the equivalent of Trump reading poll results. I will just read subscriber numbers until they start. No, I'm kidding. Edward Lianka says, are the t-shirts ethically made? Yes, they are. Where did that go? There it is. Caroline Nagel and Sean Overy have grabbed YouTube subscriptions, as well as Joe Farrell. Alex Jones says, do you support banning private health insurance? I don't, because I think that there's no point in banning private health insurance. Develop a good enough system and people will just move away from it. I think that legally it is going to be very difficult in the U.S. to do that. It'll become a distraction. It'll become the focus of the battle. I don't think it's a battle worth having. Let people just go away from it because there's a better alternative. The problem will take care of itself. Natural Phenomenon says, thank you for covering all this. I trust your objectivity and love your adorable boomerness. Keep up the good work. Oh, dear. John Butler has subscribed. Joe Millionaire sends a super chat. M. Gray says, when will we get more shirtless pictures? You know, the shirtless pictures of me are going to be only on Instagram, and they are going to be few and far between. Let me see when the last one was on my Instagram. It's been a while. Yeah, I can't even find the latest shirtless picture on Instagram. Okay, yesterday's conference was my favorite one. I don't know that it was my favorite one. Helen Danielson has grabbed a YouTube subscription. Mike Wu says, do you feel this will give more steam to research marijuana and hemp? Not saying it's a cure, but some studies say it helps with lung capacity. I don't know that smoking anything ever helps with lung capacity. There is information that not only smokers, but vapors are doing worse when they get coronavirus. And I would never suggest to anyone in my audience that they put any smoke or, quote, vape into their lungs. You know, vape is presented as this very benign thing. It's vape. Vape means vapor. It's like breathing in steam in a sauna. No, they are aerosolized chemicals, and there's every indication that it is very bad to be putting that stuff in your lungs. Maybe not worse than cigarettes, okay, but it's not good. Anybody who's shocked, by the way, that aerosolizing chemicals into your lungs might be bad, I don't know what to tell you. New member number 26 today is Jason Divot. Brittany H is new member number 27. Thank you, Brittany. Very much appreciate that. We will give away another t-shirt or coffee mug at 30 new members, where we are just 3 away from that. Okay, we really should be close to getting started here. I apologize for the delay, as if it has anything to do with me. Thorolfer Beck says, what do you think about the morality of shorting the market when this was starting, regardless of insider info? It's, you know, that's a mechanism. I think we have far more immorality than saying, I perceive that the market will go down. I'm going to short it. I'm not operating on any public information, on any inside information. I'm not going to go crazy about people who did that. I didn't do it. The only move, the financial moves I've made since these implosions have started are, I've accelerated my purchase of index funds, just broad-based index funds. I've started buying a little bit more. I bought Live Nation stock, Live Nation. None of these are financial suggestions, please, by the way. Actually, you know what? I shouldn't even really do this. Let me not even do it. Okay. Jack Cottam says, yesterday's conference was one for the books. How many elements of medical do you think they've ordered as of today? What would Trump's uncle say? I don't know. John Trump is a genius. Guillermo Gomez Jr. says, I could be wrong, but noticed Trump was the only one during yesterday's briefing that called it the Chinese virus. Wonder how their meetings go. Oh, yeah. I would love other reporters today to say to the other people, why aren't you calling it the Chinese virus? The president who's running this entire shit show is calling it a Chinese virus. Why aren't you calling it a Chinese virus? I think that would be interesting. And I'm curious how they would, oh, Pompeo did call it that. Sorry, guys. Yeah, thank you for fact checking me. Pompeo did indeed call it that. Kelly D says, if you don't mind, could you say what to you is anti-Semitic? I mean, versus being critical of Israel. Please don't take me wrong. Being critical of Israel has nothing to do with anti-Semitism, with the very small exception that there are people who veil their anti-Semitism as criticism of Israel. Believe me, nothing that's getting the banhammer dropped in the chat has anything to do with Israel. Stuart Keating says, will we get any nasty questions, remarks by him today? Probably. Christopher Hellstrom says, parents being home, how is this affecting hospital staff? I don't have the numbers, unfortunately. We have reached and surpassed 7,000 viewers on YouTube and 1,600 over on Twitch. The combined viewership right now is right around 9,000 across all platforms. And growing interest, ladies and gentlemen, and what we are soon to hear from Donald Trump. I think also, quite frankly, guys, people just being home is making it so that the live streams are doing better and better. Remember, don't just watch. You got to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and make sure to follow if you're on Twitch. Let me thank some people on Twitch. Lester Kovacs has subscribed with Twitch Prime. That's funny. Lester Kovacs is my fake name I use when I order delivery. Papa Smoke 6776 has also subscribed with Twitch Prime, which I very much appreciate. Twitch Prime is a big, big deal. Let me say thanks to Jennifer McCartney, who's new member number 28 today at joinpacman.com. Jennifer, thank you. So appreciate your support. Brent Hess says the like button isn't visible on Android YouTube. Is that right? Let me pull up my own stream on That's interesting. Maybe it's hard to actually even know how to like and subscribe if you're on certain. Okay, so here's my stream. Whoops. Now I'm on a delay. That's a good. Where is the like button? Oh, you have to X out live chat. Live chat, when you open my stream on Android, covers the like button. So you've got to X out live chat, then you like, which I just did, and then you hit subscribe, and then you hit the bell. Oh my God, there's so much to do. So much to do. Seth Barham says, weapon of choice if the virus mutates and we get zombies. You know what? I think the weapon of choice would be colloidal silver. And I'm kidding, but on that note, we're releasing this on Wednesday. Here is, while we wait, here's just a compilation of some of the grifters around coronavirus.
God gave us this product,
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
How
We're
many
talking
years ago
about
did
the
we get
silver
this
salt.
product, I wonder?
He gave this to us about 10, 12 years ago with
And
Frank.
we have it at our home. Yes. We have it in cases.
Remember, why wouldn't God just prevent coronavirus instead of giving us coronavirus and then giving us silver scams?
We use it all the time. I have this, and I mean, I don't think I'd have made it without silver.
Wouldn't have made it.
It for my throat and all that.
Absolutely.
Because I've had
throat.
this, and this is amazing.
Why is silver so?
Would you recommend, as a doctor, people to have silver in their house?
Doctor, it's a naturopath, okay? Doctors suggest that this is a medical doctor. It's not.
For
You
a
never want to
pandemic?
be. You never want to be without silver.
Never.
For so many reasons. Never.
Never.
You know, this is a staple. Talk about
Yes,
staples.
it is a staple.
This is a staple for your family.
Yes.
Right.
And we can talk more about it. Maybe when we have more time.
Yeah,
Hopefully
we got
never.
time.
All I can say is that it has been proven by the government,
Which government?
that it has the ability to kill every pathogen it has ever been tested on.
Which ones has it been tested on? Was it in a petri dish? That's very different than in situ.
Including SARS and HIV.
877-789-2539 on this Tuesday Global Transmission. I'm not going to belabor this. I'm just going to tell you that for just your daily life and your gums and your teeth and for regular viruses and bacteria, the patented nano silver we have, the Pentagon has come out and documented, and Homeland Security, and said this stuff kills the whole SARS corona family at point-blank range. Well, of course it does. It kills every virus.
Right. Every virus dies when you use the toothpaste. Now, what if the virus is in your lungs? Do you have to aspirate the toothpaste to get it into the lungs? We don't know.
But they found that. And then this is 13 years ago.
Right.
And the Pentagon uses the product we have. And the product we have in private label.
Can you imagine? The Pentagon is placing orders from Alex Jones's store.
Is about to be in Walmart coming up. They've just ordered a massive crap ton of not the one they have, but this even better one that we have.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying we're always cutting edge, thank to God.
By the way, this is a preview. We're publishing. This is part of our grifter compilation that we're publishing Monday.
I just go with the research, go with the spirit, and we always have it. The nano silver toothpaste in the super blue with the tea tree and
silver.
The iodine. That's the super blue is amazing. And then we have the whitening toothpaste that has the nano silver and a lot more as well. Those are both excellent. They're at InfoWarsStore.com.
So basically, the silver will kill coronavirus and whiten your teeth while you're at it.
Still discounted despite all the hell breaking loose. We have storable food in stock, but we have to package it, and it's 6 to 8 weeks behind shipping it out to you. Other people will lie to you. Got big old Pinocchio noses. We're not. That's what's going on. You want storable food? You want to get delivered? This thing, if it is super bad, peaks in about 12 weeks in the U.S., the models show. So you get your food, InfoWarsStore.com, and it's high quality. It's a very low price. They haven't raised prices yet, but I'm told it's next week.
Yeah.
So InfoWarsStore.com.
Put your hand on that television set.
Yes, Lord.
Hallelujah.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Lord Jesus. He received your healing.
Yes.
This is the stuff of, like, this would be in an apocalyptic zombie movie. This would be part of it.
Now, say it, I take it.
I take it.
I have it.
I have it.
It's
Also, what's on his hand? It's like, is that holy water?
mine.
It's mine.
I thank you and praise you for it.
Yes, Lord.
And I forgive if I have aught against any.
Right.
And I praise you that I'm well and whole.
I praise you that I'm well and whole.
Yes.
According to the word of God,
According to the word of God.
I'm healed.
Yes.
And I consider not my own body.
This guy's worth $760 million.
Consider
Yes.
not my own body.
I consider not symptoms in my body,
I consider not symptoms in my
but only that which God has promised.
Only that which God has.
Only that what the Word has said.
Only that what the word.
And by His stripes I was healed, and by His stripes I am healed now. I'm not the sick trying to get healed. I'm the healed.
There you go, guys. He's just been cured of coronavirus. We're still standing by for Trump. Don't worry, we're not going to miss it.
And the devil's trying to give me the flu.
That's right.
Or whatever else kind of thing
Whatever.
he's trying.
Yeah.
Healed and well
Yes.
in the sweet name of Jesus.
Jesus.
Glory to God.
This is a lung disease. So the healthier your lungs are, the better your chance. It doesn't mean you won't get infected, but you can battle the virus better. Smokers are extremely vulnerable. Vapors are not doing well. But if you have
That's
healthy lungs,
actually not true. There was an article about a medical study that showed that vaping, the whatever propofol something chloride in a vape is actually preventing people from getting.
well, I saw that.
no.
I saw that, Sean.
Don't
But I
speak
wanna
out
tell you,
against
the
my
data
vaping.
kept
I like
coming out of-
vaping.
Sean, that propylene glycol is
That's
not
it.
proven. It also has other side effects. I don't think we can consider vaping therapeutic.
I think it's extremely therapeutic for me only, nobody else.
There you go.
What we want to God, I feel the Holy Spirit. Glory to God.
Yeah, I'm sensing something as well.
Praise God. The Lord is going to honor our prayers. And let me say, from the beginning of being a Bible student with 170,000 hours of study, Hebrew words, Greek words, Jewish history, Israel history, parallels of history.
Just to be clear, this guy's not Jewish, okay? There's just a lot of these evangelical nuts. They consider themselves Jewish scholars as well.
Prophetic parallels. That if this were just a man-made virus, and they've called it an evolutionary virus, or it doesn't matter what it is, if it were just a normal thing, then if we pray and repent, it would immediately be stopped.
Right.
If it was a normal thing.
It's not, though.
Now, if it is a permitted thing, meaning the hand of the Lord came off the country for the abominations.
Right.
And you got to read the Bible, guys, to understand this. It won't make sense. Then there's nothing we can do except pray and ask God to help us repent. And we're talking about national repentance as well.
Right. We're helpless other than prayer. Oh, okay. Looks like we're about to get started here. So we'll close this out. Very, very good. We'll see which one of these streams has the loudest volume. Sometimes the streams are a little bit quiet. Welcome if you're just joining us. We've been standing by for an hour. It looks like we've got Ben Carson, we've got Anthony Fauci, we've got the Admiral as he is known. Don't recognize this guy or this guy, but we'll see how it all goes down. Let me say thanks to Jason Stitt. Jason Stitt is new member number 29 today. Carol Otterstrom is new member number 30 at joinpacman.com. Steve Walker, thanks, Steve, new member number 31 at joinpacman.com. And I think that's everybody. Yeah, thank you. Very much appreciate your support. Here is Donald Trump and Pence.
Thank you very much. A lot of things going on. We're going to be going over to the Hill, and we're having a lot of meetings. And from the financial, this is a medical situation, not a financial situation.
It's a medical, yeah.
Financial, though, is moving along very nicely. I want to thank you for being here.
Let me just see if the level's better over here. Oh, this is like way behind. All right, we'll just stick here.
In our war against the virus, governors, mayors, the businesses, charities, and citizens are all working with urgency and speed toward one common goal, which is saving American lives. We're in communication with foreign countries. It's now at 148 foreign countries. Can you believe that? 100, you talk about a spread.
Oh, we can
you
believe
talk
it.
about a violent spread. 148 countries. Not even believable. There's been a week of national action and of great national solidarity. People are getting along. We're getting along with Republicans and Democrats and independents and liberals and conservatives. And actually, it's a very nice thing to see. We're all one beautiful, big American family, and that's taking place right now. Last night, I approved a major disaster declaration for the state of New York. I worked very closely with Governor Cuomo. And this is the first time in our nation's history that a president's used the Stafford Act to declare a major disaster in response to a public health crisis. Never happened before. I'm considering other areas where we may or may not be doing that, and I'm working very closely with Gavin Newsom, governor of California, and others. We may be doing the same thing depending on their needs, depending on what they're asking for. It's been unprecedented action in New York, and we've had a tremendous federal response all over the country. And I want to thank all the people in the federal government and obviously in the state governments and local governments. We are working hard. Everybody is working hard. And the people standing alongside of me are working very hard. That I can tell you. We've also reached agreements with Canada and Mexico on new travel rules at our northern and southern borders to halt the entry of the Chinese virus while continuing trade and commerce. And we've had very good talks. With Prime Minister Trudeau, and today, this morning, with President Lopez Obrador. And we talked about joint measures that we're taking to prevent the spread of the virus in our countries and to temporarily suspend non-essential travel. We had a great conversation this morning, President of Mexico, and our close cooperation with Mexico and Canada will keep our people healthy, keep their people healthy, keep everybody safe. Yesterday, I had a call with 12,000 small businesses, representatives of these businesses. That's the engine of our country. People don't realize that. You know, you read all about the big ones, but these small business, when you add them up together, are really the engine, economic engine of our country. And I assured them that my administration is doing everything within its very considerable power, frankly, to support them and their employees. Nobody's ever done what we've done. Likewise, I had calls during the week with all sorts of representatives and systems like the hospital system. We spoke to many of the hospital systems throughout the country, nurses and doctors, representatives representing hundreds of thousands of nurses and doctors, airlines and cruise ship companies, the Business Roundtable, which was fully attended, and it's all of the top CEOs of our country and beyond, frankly, the businessmen of...
They should get directly to the medical experts.
World-styled businessmen. These are businessmen that control the biggest companies in the world.
Businessmen.
Many of them have taken hits, and many of them are just, going forward. Their businesses have been great. Some have been very badly affected. Some haven't been affected at all, and frankly, some are doing very well. They continue to do very well. It's Walmart, as an example, has been really helpful to us.
Shocking. Walmart's
Doug
doing well.
McMillan, head of Walmart, really helpful to us, and I guess I assume they're doing pretty well because people are certainly buying more than even a clip at Christmas.
Oh yeah, this has been
by
great
substantial
economically.
numbers,
It's
pretty
fantastic
amazing,
for
but
Walmart.
they're doing incredibly. They put on tremendous extra staff. You don't have empty shelves. A lot of things have happened that are very good. Restaurants, fast food executives, grocery stores, all retailers, literally all of them, in groups. And we spoke with the G7 leaders at length, as you know. You probably know about that. Spoke to many of the governors, spoke to almost all of the governors at conference calls and many of the governors individually. And very importantly, the religious leaders. We had a great conversation.
Super important, yeah.
Yesterday, the vice president and myself with the religious leaders of,
Got to be kidding me.
of our country, many of the religious leaders, and we've had a number of them during the course of the last 2 weeks, actually. But yesterday, we had a very significant call with the religious leaders of our country. I signed legislation providing American workers with paid sick leave and paid family medical leave at no cost to employers, and free testing for those who need it. The testing's going very well, and the Admiral will speak to that along with Tony. We're working quickly to pass additional legislation that will provide massive relief to small businesses and affected industries and give direct payments to our great workers and hardworking American families. There's never been anything like we're doing on the Hill right now. They're negotiating. Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, they're all up there. Kevin McCarthy and Nancy Pelosi. They're all negotiating, and everybody's working hard, and they want to get to a solution that's the right solution. I think we're getting very close. We've also announced that we've moved tax day from April 15th to July 15th, which is a big deal, giving businesses and individuals extra time to file and pay without interest or penalties. So we've moved the date way back, and so it'll be July 15th instead of your traditional April 15th. And very importantly, you will have a lot of time, but you're not going to have interest penalties or any kind of penalties by filing at that later date. HUD announced that foreclosures and evictions are suspended for single-family homeowners with FHA-insured mortgages for the next 60 days. And our great head of HUD, who's with us today, Ben Carson's going to say a few words in a moment.
That'll be
The Department
exciting.
of Education will not enforce standardized testing, which is another big deal, requirements for students in elementary through high school for the current school year. Not fair to do that. So we are waiving that. I I would imagine it's probably the first time ever that's been waived, but I think it's only fair to the students and to the parents of the students. It is also waiving interest and other things that we're discussing right now on federally held student loans, and directed that borrowers be allowed to suspend their student loan payments without penalty for at least 60 days. And we'll be talking about student loans, going to help the students. They're under a great burden right now.
So we
will
can
be
do
talking
something about those
that
loans,
further,
I
but
guess.
we're waiving during the 60-day period various elements and very important elements on student loans, big subject. I signed an executive order invoking the Defense Production Act, as you all know, giving us powerful new authorities to help states, cities, and hospitals procure needed supplies. There's been a clear call to action to the private sector, and the call is made right here. It's been really pretty amazing what's happened with the private sector. They are really in sixth gear, I think, which has responded in full force, helping to produce and supply much-needed masks, swabs, sanitizers, ventilators, and everything else. There's a move on that's incredible right now. And by way of example, Hanes, everybody knows Hanes, great company, great consumer cotton products company, is retrofitting its manufacturing capabilities in large sections of their plants to produce masks. And they're in that process right now. And in my direction, the FDA has taken rapid steps to make these items available for medical use right now. I mean, most excitingly to me is what the FDA has done in order to get possibly a very successful number. It's not just one or two, number of therapeutics, medicines that can help people that are already sick, help people not get sick. And obviously,
Let's see what he
we know
lists.
about the vaccine, and Tony will discuss that a little bit later, but the vaccine is moving along. But this is something that right now, this is what it's incredible. And what the FDA has done, and Dr. Stephen Hahn, who's highly respected, came as just a highly respected man. He's been fantastic.
Great guy.
He's only been here for a couple of months, and he's gotten thrown into the swim of it, and he's really standing up. But the FDA has really moved mountains. I said it this morning. They moved mountains to get approvals on things that maybe work. We'll find out very soon. It won't take long. An example of the Pernod Ricard, which is
Oh, God, here we
this
go.
is really an example where we're repurposing alcohol. They went out and repurposed their alcohol production capabilities in Arkansas, Kentucky, Texas, and West Virginia to make hand sanitizer. That's a big difference. And they've been unbelievable. They really have. Pernod Ricard. Their first delivery will be on Tuesday. It's going to go to various states. They're going to start, I think, in New York, and they're going to work their way around. They're making a tremendous amount of hand sanitizer at a very high level, too, by the way.
Extremely high level
We've
sanitizer.
activated the National Response Coordination Center to level 1. That's your highest level. This is the nerve center of all of our government response to crisis, and it's coordinating very closely with our nation's governors. Many of you were at the call yesterday with the governors, and I think you can see the relationship, and we've had numerous calls with governors, by the way, but the relationships are pretty amazing. They're loving what we're doing, and the coordination between the federal government and the governors, states, and even local has been pretty incredible.
It sounds like things are great,
FEMA
guys. I don't
Administrator
know.
Pete Gaynor, who is with us, will soon be providing you with an update on the center's operations, and FEMA's been incredible. We got them involved last week, very much involved, and now they're involved nationwide. We've dramatically expanded telehealth so Americans can see a doctor without leaving home, something which more and more people are using, and now they're really using it, and now the ones that are using it are loving it. And I think we're going to change the way our
Everybody's
country
thrilled.
functions medically, and probably in other ways because of what's going on right now. This will reduce the chance of infection and preserve hospital capacity, so it solves a lot of problems. Every American has a role to play in defending our nation from this invisible, horrible enemy. It really is. It's an invisible enemy. And
The invisible
will be
scourge.
Successful, very successful, hopefully very much sooner than people would even think. So we say stay at home and save lives. There's a time of shared national sacrifice, but it's also a time to treasure our loved ones and to take stock of what is most important, our faith, our families, our neighbors, and our great country. And I want to thank all of the incredible people of our country, the citizens of our country, that what you've done and the way you're responding is just
Half the country's
been,
partying.
Very special, something that we will never forget, that the history books will never forget. And we're going to have a great victory. We're going to be celebrating a great victory in the not-too-distant future. And I just want to thank everybody. And now
We're going to
I'll
celebrate
introduce
if only 30,000 people die.
Vice President Mike Pence, who's led the task force. And I will tell you this, he has not slept much, maybe a tiny bit, maybe a little bit, but not much. And he's done an incredible job. Mike, thank you. Please.
Thanks to the incredible leadership of the president.
Good afternoon, all. And thank you, Mr. President. The White House Coronavirus Task Force met today. We briefed the president on our latest recommendations. We continue at the president's direction to lead not a whole of government approach, but a whole of America approach. You just heard the president describe one inspiring story after another, the way the American people are responding, the way American businesses are responding, religious communities across this country.
Those pastors.
American people are coming together. They're responding with common sense, compassion, and generosity. People are heeding the advice of state and local authorities, and tens of millions of Americans are putting into practice 15 days to slow the spread. We are officially, Mr. President, 6 days into our 15 days. And as we look all across this country,
feels like months.
While we strongly support the decisions that governors in states where we have significant outbreak have taken, we encourage every American to listen to those state and local authorities. For every American, this is what you can do to make a difference over the next week and a few days to protect your health, protect your family's health, but most especially slow the spread and the potential for the coronavirus to impact the most vulnerable. As the president said, we've almost been overwhelmed at the outpouring of support from American businesses. The president spoke yesterday to thousands of small businesses. We spoke to manufacturers yesterday, and in fact, as the president indicated, the FDA in record time just approved one manufacturer that will be producing millions of surgical masks in a matter of weeks for the American people.
Didn't 34 million get produced in January?
We want to thank all the religious leaders from every community of faith in the country, making the hard choice to suspend services, to have online services, even while those ministries are continuing to support food banks and come alongside the most vulnerable. And of course, the chorus of prayers that is coming up from communities of faith around the country is making the difference that it always has in the life of this nation. One thing the president and I promised was to remind people that on the weekends that you're not in the pews, it's still a good idea to, if you can, to go ahead and make that donation, because all the ministries are continuing
to the churches,
play a vital role in our communities.
Their plan is keep donating to your church.
The president and I are grateful that the American people are listening to state and local authorities and putting into practice all of the recommendations in the president's coronavirus guidelines. As you will hear in just a few moments from Admiral Gua, testing is expanding rapidly across the United States of America. State-run drive-thrus are expanding across the country. And as you will hear detailed this morning, now more than 195,000 Americans and more who have been symptomatic have been tested. That number does not include county hospitals or or healthcare labs around the nation, some 15,000 in number.
This guy's
And
evil.
among the number of the more than 195,000 that have been tested, it's important to remember that only 19,343 at this moment have tested positive for the coronavirus. We continue to urge state and local health authorities to contact FEMA for all the latest developments and innovations in testing. But we want to remind Americans, as Dr. Fauci will emphasize in a moment, if you don't have symptoms, don't do a test. It is another way that the American people can make sure that we are preserving the resources that our healthcare workers need to minister and to support those who are dealing with the coronavirus and other illnesses. In a moment, Pete Gaynor will detail the efforts at FEMA. Since the President's national emergency declaration, we have FEMA in the lead, stood up the National Response Coordination Center, as the President said, and we are working closely, literally hour by hour, through FEMA, processing requests from states most impacted, like New York, Washington State, and California, and we'll continue to work very, very closely with those states through the very traditional means of federal emergency management at FEMA. Secretary Carson will describe decisive actions the President alluded to bring foreclosure relief to Americans. And on the subject of supplies, in a moment you will hear of not only the progress that we're making on testing, but on Monday we'll be detailing for the American people the progress that we are making on the President's strategy of procuring more personal protective equipment and medical supplies, allocating them through the system of FEMA, and continuing to urge conservation by Americans. In fact, I'm pleased to report to the President today that HHS just placed an order for hundreds of millions of N95 masks that will be being made available to...
Notice every day we're told about orders being placed, and yet every day hospitals have none.
All for Americans to postpone elective medical procedures, including dental services. And remember, this is another way that you're going to make sure that medical supplies are available, because by postponing elective medical procedures, you're freeing up medical supplies for those dealing with the coronavirus. As the President mentioned, our team is on Capitol Hill as we speak, working with members of Congress in both political parties. They're making progress, by all accounts, on a bipartisan bill. They worked late into the night last night, started early this morning, and we are working to pass that legislation on Monday in both the House and the Senate. Now, on a personal note, many of you may have been made aware that a member of my staff has tested positive for the coronavirus.
Right.
We learned of that late yesterday. I am pleased to report that he is doing well. He had mild cold-like symptoms for about a day and a half. Has not been to the White House since Monday. Neither the President nor I had direct contact with that staff person. We worked immediately with the White House physician and the CDC. We've done all contact tracing. And while the White House doctor has indicated that he has no reason to believe that I was exposed and no need to be tested, given the unique position that I have as Vice President and as the leader of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, both I and my wife will be tested for the coronavirus later this afternoon. Let me say again how grateful the President and I are that every American has acted on the President's coronavirus guidelines. We are 6 days into 15 days.
Holy shit.
That, as Dr. Fauci may well reflect in a moment, is an opportunity for us here on the footholds of this epidemic curve in our country to literally lower the impact in our nation and save lives. Every American can do their part to slow the spread, and we encourage you each to continue to do that. As the President says often, remember, we're all in this together. And also remember that for most Americans, the risk of serious illness from the coronavirus
remains
low. The reason we want to put into practice the President's coronavirus guidelines is because no American would want to inadvertently expose someone who is vulnerable, a senior with a serious underlying health condition, to the coronavirus with a potential threat. I did hear one story this morning, Mr. President, about a senior.
Great story.
Named Geneva Wood. She actually is at the Life Care Center in Kirkland, Washington. She is not only a grandmother, she is a great-great-grandmother. 90 years young, and she tested positive for the coronavirus on March 6th.
What a great story.
By all accounts, she's doing well. She wanted America to know there is hope, and her strength and her enthusiasm is truly an inspiration to the nation. As the President said many times, we're going to get through this and come out stronger than ever before. And we'll get through this as Americans together. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Admiral, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. As I told you earlier last week, we are in the process and are effectively transitioning to large-scale testing by leveraging all the components of the American healthcare system.
This guy says this every day.
When we started, it was CDC only. Then it was the state public health laboratories. Now we're transitioning into the mainstream of American testing with many of the companies that the president invited in the Rose Garden just a week ago. So currently, 91 public health laboratories, state public health laboratories, are up and running in 50 states, the District of Columbia, Guam, and Puerto Rico. This is our curve, and I want to be very clear about this, that this only accounts for CDC, state public health laboratories, and the laboratories that are members of the American Clinical Laboratory Association. These are the main reference laboratories: LabCorp, Quest, Mayo, ARUP, BioReference Labs, and Sonic Healthcare. It does not account for the well over 10,000, 15,000 hospital-based labs, many of which are doing testing, for whom we will get data this week to give you an overall roll-up. As you can see, over 195,000 people in America have completed their testing. That means tests plus results. This does not count the people whose tests are in process. And as you see this curve is going, it will continue to rise dramatically over the next period of time. So again, this is utilizing all the components of the great American healthcare system, the state and local public health laboratories, the hospital system, which is not represented here, and the main reference laboratories.
We're getting close to testing 0.01% of the population. We're getting dangerously close.
She will definitely emphasize this more. There are priorities for testing, and clearly everyone across the country should understand that those hospitalized or in an ICU are a priority for testing. Symptomatic healthcare workers, for obvious reasons, we want to make sure that their health is preserved and that they are not going to spread to those who may be seriously ill. Symptomatic people in long-term care facilities. As the Vice President has highlighted, and we've said many times, elderly in our society have a much higher mortality rate, much higher serious complication rate. Symptomatic individuals over 65, symptomatic individuals who have underlying conditions like chronic heart disease or liver disease or other types of chronic diseases, patients in public health investigations, and there are local priorities around the country, particularly healthcare workers for testing. And Dr. Fauci is going to emphasize this about the types of people who may not be to be tested. Testing is going well, it's ramping up, but we should still have priorities.
Testing.
Finally, I want to talk about the community-based testing sites. I know they're popular now because there's now an acronym, which I'm sure the Vice President doesn't appreciate, CBTS, or CBT sites. We talked about these earlier in the week, and I wanted to emphasize again that these are state-managed and locally executed. The federal government is there to provide support, know-how, blueprints on how to do this, but these are really springing up at dozens and dozens of sites all over the country, adapted to the local needs. Some are drive-throughs, some are walk-up, some are geared to healthcare workers and emergency responders. So again, what we see in the upcoming week is this curve will continue to increase as testing becomes more widely available, as the great American healthcare industry continues to increase the availability of tests and the throughput of those tests. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Admiral. Dr. Fauci, please.
Let's hear some actual
Thank you very
science
much,
now.
Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. What I want to do just over the next minute or so is maybe connect some of the dots of the things that you've heard today. First, the status of the dynamics of the outbreak. I mean, you all know the numbers. You've seen them. We have widespread infection, but to varying degrees throughout the country. So, for example, when you talk about the kinds of mitigation issues that we have put forth and have emphasized, just as I mentioned the other day, there are two dynamic forces that are going on at the same time. You're having the natural course of an outbreak trying to peak at a high level, and then you have the mitigation strategies which are aimed at dampening that. We've mentioned that multiple times. We often get asked, how do you know you're having an effect? Because there are two things that are going on at the same time. They may be confounding. Well, I can tell you for sure, from a public health standpoint and experience with other outbreaks, we know we are clearly having an effect, but we can't quantitate it for you accurately now, because looking forward, you'll know what the impact of the rate of these steep inclines will be. So that's why we're going to come back to you every day and keep you up to date about that. Getting with regard to the disproportionate of the response, everyone, it's right here, I'll get to open up the Vice President's book with his permission. This is baseline for everyone. In other words, throughout the country. But then there will be areas, and you've heard them, Washington State, California, New York City, in which the dynamics of the outbreak are clearly different and much more robust, if you want to use that word. And that's the reason why we've seen the mitigation ratcheted up in that regard. And again, hopefully, and I have confidence it will happen, you will see an impact on that. Next, getting to testing. You saw the numbers with testing. Remember, there was always an issue with testing. I think we're getting to the solution that everybody in the country is looking for. But I want to emphasize one thing that Admiral Giroir mentioned, is that not every single person in the United States needs to get tested. He gave you the priorities. I don't want to repeat them. But let me tell you one of the unintended consequences of individuals who don't need to get tested that flood the desire to get tested. Currently, and I hope we'll be able to change it and make it much less reliable on PPEs, when you go in and get tested, you are consuming personal protective equipment, masks and gowns. Those are high priority for the healthcare workers who are taking care of people who have coronavirus disease. So what we don't want to do is to have a situation where we do have disparities in availability of PPEs now, and we're working hard to correct that. But currently today, we want to make sure that the people who are taking care of people with coronavirus disease do not endanger themselves because they don't have the personal protective equipment. And then finally, one last thing was just mentioned, the Surgeon General has been pushing this. Please put off, cancel elective medical and surgical procedures. You don't want to not ever do them, but for the time being, don't do them, because they also not only consume personal protective equipment, they may also consume some of the things like ventilators that you might need. So let's pull in this together, and we will get through it. I promise you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, very much.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. FEMA is now leading the federal operation or the federal response for all operations on behalf of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, who oversees this whole-of-nation response.
This a Boston guy?
HHS will continue to provide their expert matter expertise on health, and pursuant to the nationwide emergency declaration, FEMA, in coordination with HHS,
Rhode Island,
assisting state, local, tribal, territorial governments and their other eligible entities with health and safety emergency protective measures on behalf of the American public. As of yesterday, 50 states, the District of Columbia, 5 territories, and 1 tribe are working directly with FEMA under the nationwide emergency declaration for COVID-19. In just 24 hours, we've obligated $100 million to states, territories, and tribes. A little bit about supplies. It is of the utmost importance that requests for assistance, especially for critical supplies, get routed through proper channels as soon as possible. And we ask everyone to follow the normal procedures FEMA uses in a natural disaster. There's no different procedure for the COVID-19 pandemic. But remember, you can still order supplies from your regular vendors and buy it on the open market. Buy it where you can find it. We will reimburse you. If you buy medical supplies from foreign sources, it is reimbursable. Buy America does not apply to the Stafford Act, except for Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. If you can't buy it on the open market, make a request through the FEMA system. Requests for assistance at the local and county level should first go to states, from states to the regional FEMA offices, and then from those offices right here in D.C., where the National Response Coordination Center is open and running. We are getting requests for masks, PPE, swab sets, test site supports, ventilators, hospital capacity assessments, and many more. We are in lockstep with HHS to answer these requests, but we will do whatever is necessary to get states, tribes, territories, and others what they need. And then finally, what we are doing here in Washington, D.C., again, this is a whole-of-government response. Like all emergencies, response is most successful when it is locally executed, state-managed, and federally supported. We can't say that enough. On Thursday, our federal partners fully integrated with our National Response Coordination Center, and additionally, all 10 FEMA regions across the country have been activated. The FEMA regional administrators will continue to coordinate closely with governors, state emergency managers, state public health officials to determine the type and level of support needed to respond to this dynamic threat. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Pete. Appreciate it. Ben, please.
Ben, tell us a little something.
Well, thank you, Mr. President and Mr. Vice President, for your tireless leadership here. And I also want to thank the fellow task force members who have been working around the clock in a very patriotic way to serve their fellow Americans. You know, part of the American dream is having a home. And sometimes people say, well, what does housing have to do with health? It has everything to do with health, having a safe home. And that is the reason that the President has authorized the immediate cessation of foreclosure and eviction proceedings for American citizens, single-family forward mortgages, as well as reverse mortgages. And as you know, FHFA has also decided to do the same thing for 60 days. And the CFPB is very happy with all of this as well. And it's really all about helping our people, recognizing that they're being severely impacted by the coronavirus. And we've also asked the various servicers of mortgage loans to exercise forbearance for anybody who's having difficulty. It is important, if you're having difficulty, to actually contact the people who have made the loan, who established the mortgage, because it doesn't happen automatically. What does happen automatically is that we cover all 8.5 million people in terms of the moratorium on foreclosures and evictions.
Boy.
We want also for the PHAs to be protected. HUD does not have authority to mandate that evictions can occur, but we are in contact with all the PHAs across the country and are petitioning Congress for the power to be able to actually enforce that. But the fact of the matter is most of the PHAs are run by people who actually care about other people. So we really haven't seen much of a problem there. We haven't seen much of a problem with forbearance and needing to try to force people to do it because they want to do it. People are stepping up and saying, what can we do to be helpful? As far as housing choice vouchers, Section 8 is concerned, the April vouchers will be sent out next week. In May, vouchers are already being worked on. And we're also staying in contact with all the stakeholders, the advocates for low-income housing, as well as other stakeholders to make sure that we're doing things that are most helpful to them. And additionally, we've extended the deadlines for healthcare and multifamily financial reporting requirements. And that's for over 20,000 multifamily and healthcare borrowers until April the 30th. And that provides them with a lot more flexibility to deal with the issues that they're dealing with. I also want to thank our FHA Commissioner Bryant Montgomery, as well as the FHFA Director Mark Calabria, and Kathy Kraninger, the Director of CFPB, who've all worked tirelessly with us to make this happen. What we're trying to do is bridge the gap, recognizing that it's a lot easier for us to take these measures and for Congress to take the measures that they're taking so that we don't destroy a very excellent system and have to start all over again. So for those who are worried about the money that's being spent, if you don't spend the money and deal with this now, it's going to cost a whole lot more to try to build all this up again. And as was mentioned by the president, there's been a sense of unity that we haven't seen for a long time in this country. And let's hope and pray that that unity lasts far beyond this crisis.
Right. And keep donating to churches, Pence said.
Thank you very much. A few questions, please.
Mr. President, a few questions, if you don't mind, sir. If you've lost your job now, or you're worried that you're going to lose your job tomorrow, restaurant, something like that, what do you want people to do immediately? The second question, sir. You heard from the Vice President that he's going to be tested. Have you taken a test since last Saturday? I know you told us.
I just took one.
You just took one. How are you feeling?
I feel great.
Okay.
I guess I hope I look good.
He's not saying he took a second test, though. That is confusing.
Sorry, hold on one second. Yeah. So,
He took it a week.
So for those people that have
8 days
lost their
ago.
job already, or they're worried that they're about to lose it tomorrow, what do you want them to do right now?
Well, what they do right now is keep receiving their paycheck, and hopefully their companies are going to be in a very strong position. We want to
They're
keep
not.
everything together.
People laid
because
off.
we think we're going to have a tremendous bounce back. Now, some people agree with that very strongly. Some of our top economists, they think we're going to have a very, once we solve the problem that we're working on, the medical problem. So we want them to keep their jobs, stay where you are, and we'll see what happens. Now, if they don't, we have unemployment, we have checks, we have a lot of things happening, a lot of very positive things. Nobody has ever done. Now, this is working with Democrats, this is Republicans and Democrats and myself working together. Nobody's ever done a package like this. It's a great package, but ideally we want them to be able to keep their jobs, keep the pay coming, and I think that's going to happen. Kelly, go ahead.
Mr. President, on your Defense Production Act power, one of the features of that is that the federal government would be able to control the output, whether it's masks or ventilators,
Right.
get it to the most areas of need, and control the pricing to keep it at a market level so it's not price
Right.
gouging. One of the things we're hearing from governors, they can't find supplies and prices have gone up. So you've talked about the act, sir, but you have not yet compelled any companies. Why not?
Because we have so many companies making so many products, every product that you mentioned, plus ventilators and everything else. We have car companies without having to use the act. If we don't have to use specifically, we have the act to use in case we need it. But we have so many things being made right now by so many, they've just stepped up. In fact, Mike Pence and I were discussing it before. We've never seen anything like it, where they are volunteering. We want to make masks, we wanna, like Hanes, I brought that up as an example. General Motors, I bring that up as another.
They go on the
Ford.
open market, sir, right?
They're going to go on the open market. We want them on the open market from the standpoint of pricing, because otherwise it's going to be, we could be very unfairly
Direct
treated.
them to the places in greatest need.
We are directing states, and sometimes we'll be competing against states, which I don't want, and we'll
Sometimes
drop
we're
out
going
of
to
the
do this
bidding.
thing I don't want to do.
We want the states to go first. And you know what we're doing is we're helping states. That's what we want to do. Same thing with the testing. We're helping states. We're helping states get to where they want.
By
And
negotiating
we've made
against
tremendous
them.
progress in every aspect of
This
it.
happens for a
It's
governor
happening
who needs
fast now.
equipment today.
Well, it's happening fast right now, and the governors are out there trying to get, and if they are competing with us, we immediately drop out, please.
Mr. President, forgive me if I heard you wrong at the beginning, but you said something, we are going to be going over to the Hill. Are you going yourself to?
My people are, and I'll be staying here. I'll be in the Oval Office and various other places in the White House.
And on that matter, you're asking Congress to essentially pass a series of legislation that's going to amount to about $2 trillion, 10% of the GDP. What do you say to members in both parties who say this is too expensive, this is just too much to debate and get done in 48 hours or so? And also, have you spoken directly with Speaker Pelosi at all?
No,
about
he's
any
not
of this?
talking to her right now.
So I've spoken with, I'm not going to say who I speak with, but I've spoken with directly or indirectly everybody many, many times. We're doing very well. I think the Democrats and the Republicans are going to come up with a package. It's going to be
Huge package.
really something very special. It's going to help people.
Special.
This is the first time there's ever been a case where you want people not to work. It's always, you want to create incentive to work. We're creating not an incentive not to work, but the fact is we're asking people not to work because of they have to stay away from each other. If we're going to kill this horrible hidden enemy, we have to stay away.
Scourge.
So there's never been a thing like this in the history of the world, and other nations are doing similar things. Some effectively, some not effectively. They're doing similar things. We are creating a package that's going to keep companies together, keep workers paid so they can live and sustain. We'll see what the timing is. The biggest thing we can do is get rid of the problem. The problem is exactly what we know, the medical problem. We want to have this whole incredible situation that it can start right away. Not that all these companies break up, all the workers are out of jobs, you can't put them back together, and it would take years to put them back together. Because we had the greatest economy in the history of the world until we got hit by this problem. And we can be back very, very quickly. And it's our intention to be back very, very quickly. So we're doing a package, the likes of which nobody's ever done before. I'm obviously the one that has to approve the different things and the recommendations of the different things. And like buybacks as an example, and stock buybacks, I didn't like it the first time, and this time I'm saying, you're not doing it. I don't want money to be used for that.
That's news.
I want money to be used for workers.
Is he saying
and
he
for
doesn't want it, or is it going to be in the
businesses,
bill, though?
keeping businesses, not buybacks. And well, I am strongly recommending a buyback exclusion. You cannot buy back your stock. You can't take $1 billion of the money and just buy back your stock and increase the value. Please.
On the subject of masks, the vice president announced HHS was ordering hundreds of millions of them. Was that order just placed today? How is that going to be distributed, and when can doctors and nurses expect to actually receive those masks?
Yeah, HHS is completing a $500 million order of N95 masks, and all of this is being coordinated through FEMA, and we are responding specifically to state requests where the needs arrive. As Dr. Fauci said, we want to make sure the people that are providing healthcare services to people who may have contracted coronavirus have the protection to keep themselves and their families healthy. But I want to emphasize the supply of so-called N95 masks has been vastly increased in the country because the president insisted that we extend liability protection to industrial masks. What all the experts told us early on was that industrial masks that are used on construction sites, the president's very familiar with from his past life,
excellent real estate developer,
are perfectly appropriate to protect healthcare workers from respiratory illness. But they didn't have the liability protection because they weren't created for hospitals. We worked with leaders in both parties. We added that protection that runs through 2024, that now the industrial N95 masks can be purchased by hospitals, purchased by states, purchased by HHS, and distributed through our system. So we're making those available. The supply has been, as I said, vastly increased, and it was another step forward and a bipartisan accomplishment. And we're continuing to use all the kind of creative means of American industry to make sure that we're leaning into this effort and that we do whatever it takes to make sure that our healthcare providers have the protective equipment.
We are still hearing from doctors and nurses about this shortage. When exactly can they expect to receive these masks, though?
Right.
Well, let me let Pete Gaynor speak to that.
Anybody else?
FEMA will be. HHS is now fully integrated into FEMA, and so as the requests come in, but obviously, as I'm sure the administrator will say, they're being prioritized to those areas with the highest need.
So within the National Coordination Center, we have a supply chain task force. And in basic sense, we're trying to identify the universe of what's out there. So whether we hold it at the federal level, we hold it in the private sector, and then match that up with demand and asking people to be creative. We're asking, again, this is a shared responsibility. We're asking locals and states to do your share locally, try to take a little bit of burden off of us, and then we'll prioritize those scarce resources because every single governor across the country is looking for the exact same thing. So there's a balance, but we're examining the entire supply chain to make sure that we make
the masks start coming in?
They're out there now. So again, we want to match. We want to get out of the middle, I think.
I appreciate it. Yeah, that's what I like to know. When will they?
So we're trying to match suppliers with demand. So that's what we're doing right now. It's
Nobody's
happening
answering.
They can expect them today, or they're matching supply and demand today?
There's a range of requests across the country,
Oh,
and we're trying
boy.
to match those again, supply and demand every day through the task force.
We have a lot that already come in. A lot have already come in. I have to tell you, the throwing away of the mask, being in private business, They're throwing away the mask right away. They're throwing away, and when you hear 55 million masks were ordered, I'm saying 55 million. How could it possibly be such a number? And they say, oh, that's just a small fraction of what we need. And I said, why aren't we sanitizing masks? You know, you look at the masks. I've looked at all the different masks. Some don't lend themselves to doing that, I think, but many do. And I said, why aren't we have very good liquids for doing this, sanitizing the masks. And that's something they're starting to do more and more. They're sanitizing the masks. And I don't know if anybody would like to speak to that.
Yeah, Fauci, you want to talk about liquids?
Yeah, you might want to discuss.
Yeah, there are CDC guidances about how you can minimize the use of masks by different things that you could do with testing, and when you have masks, how you might reuse them, which ones you can reuse them.
Do you think there's a solution to this other than buying more masks? Do healthcare providers need to change how they're using them?
Yeah, well, there are a couple of things. One, for example, we are moving towards getting testing where you don't have to have PPE. I mean, I'm not going to tell you the day it's going to be there, but it's going to be a swab that you could stick in the nose of the person who is either infected or not, but that person doesn't need PPE, the person who's administering the test. So if you could do a self-administered test, stick it in a vial, hand it over. You don't need a mask, you don't need PPE. That's one of the things we're trying to do.
I would have liked that much better. Personally, yeah, go ahead.
May I? And this is another story about great American industry.
Oh, no.
The president and I literally heard directly from Apple that they're donating 2 million industrial masks.
Tim Apple.
To this effort around the country and working with our administration to distribute those. And it might be a good opportunity for us to renew our call as the president and I delivered this message to businesses yesterday, manufacturers and small businesses.
Quick buy Apple
It's a great
stock.
time to go to your storeroom, and if you have N95 masks, if you've got 100 of them, if you've got 10,000 of them, is to load them up, drive them over to your local hospital. That story is literally happening all over the country. And now with more Americans stepping away from elective surgery, including elective dental care, we're urging dentists around America to look at their supplies of N95 masks and make those available to our hospitals. But the great news is, as the president said, the American people are all doing this now. So allow me to say on behalf of the president, thank you for what you all are doing today, but we want to encourage people in business, encourage people.
Well, Pence wraps the propaganda. Did anybody else notice when the reporter asked what should people who have laid off do? Trump said, keep collecting paychecks.
Your local hospital would be a great service to the country.
Mr. President, I just want to read you some of what some of the doctors on the front lines of this crisis are saying.
You mean the ones that are saying good things or bad things?
These are doctors who are talking about the shortage of medical supplies that they are facing. Dr. Faiza Bucks in Kentucky says there's absolutely no way to protect myself. A surgeon in Fresno, California says we are at war with no ammo. Dr. Mel in Illinois says if this is a wartime situation, then now is the time to act. I know you're talking now about increasing production at so many of these facilities to get the masks out, but given that this is one of the wealthiest, most powerful countries in the world, should this even be happening? Shouldn't this have been resolved weeks ago?
I'll tell you the way I look at it. So many administrations preceded me.
Oh,
for the
God,
most
not
part,
this.
They did very little in terms of what you're talking about. This is unprecedented. You could speak to Tony, you could speak to anybody. This is unprecedented or just about unprecedented. As time goes by, we're seeing it's really at a level that nobody would have believed, nobody would have thought possible that this could happen. And we are making much of this stuff now, and much of it's being delivered now. We've also gotten tremendous reviews from a lot of people that can't believe how fast it's coming. When I hear they have an order of 55 million masks, and that's just one order, that's one order out of many, and that there are many millions of masks beyond that and I keep saying, how is it possible to use so much? But that's the way it is. And part of that is because they'll use a mask for a short period of time and they throw it. The fact is that we are doing a tremendous amount. We started with very few masks. We had some, but nothing for an event like this. And now we're making tens of millions of masks and other things. And I think it's unprecedented what we've done and what we're doing. And many doctors, and I've read many doctors, they can't believe the great job that we've done. Yes,
It has been many.
Kelly, did you have?
It's been nearly 3 months since your administration learned about this virus.
Well, if you remember, I was the one that closed the country down. I was the one that closed the. You don't write that, or you don't say it too much, certainly on CNN. But I just read an article yesterday. That by closing the country down so early, very early, we saved tens of thousands and much more than that lives. So, you might want to report that too. Go ahead, Chris.
I'd just like to address that for a moment. Again, I'm an ICU physician, ran health systems, and I first of all want to thank everyone who's on the front line in the emergency room, in the ICUs, in the hospitals. I speak to my colleagues daily. We need to preserve our PPE to the degree that we can. CDC guidelines has had that. The president has talked about it. But I also want to say we are making product, as the president said, but we are also responding through the FEMA system to distribute the strategic national stockpile resources according to requests that come in. Stockpile has been distributed to many states, first orders, second orders, and on a daily basis adjudicating that. If there are shortages in your hospital system, I can't tell you of Dr. XYZ, that needs to be clearly iterated to the local emergency management.
Are you seeing those hospitals talking about the shortages?
We were on the
asking federal
phone 2
government?
nights ago or 3 nights ago with over 2,000 hospitals or hospital systems sharing best practices from Seattle, where they've been very innovative, pioneering some of these areas. When there is a shortage, they need to go through their emergency management. It goes directly up to the FEMA system, which really rocks. It really works very, very well. And then there's a distribution of the stockpile. Now, the stockpile isn't infinite. That's why it's being replaced by all the orders. But mask supplies go out on a daily basis as they are needed and requested through the FEMA system. And I don't know, Administrator Gaynor, whether you want to add to that.
Tony, would you like to say something?
Just to reiterate what Brett said, we don't take lightly what you just read. I get the calls every night, the way you get emails. It's a serious issue. We don't want that to happen, but it is happening. You're not making things up. I know that because I'm experiencing myself. But what you just
Trump
heard
doesn't
about
like
the
that.
different avenues, some of which aren't even recognized, about how you can get help through the FEMA process, in addition to the large amounts of additional PPE that's coming into the system. We hope that very, very, very soon we're not going to get those kinds of real life difficulties.
Yeah, like there's a question about the timeline here, and even FEMA can't quite answer what the timeline is. Days, weeks.
Yeah. Sooner than weeks. It's going to be days. I would hope.
Hope.
We're going to try to make it days to the best possible way we can.
Yes.
And again, what we're doing is we're trying to help the states get things faster. And that's what we're doing. We're implementing. And the magnitude of this, it's a tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy. But the magnitude is something that no matter who you were, no matter where you come from, nobody ever thought a thing like this could happen. You read about
Except CDC 6
1917 and
weeks
you read
ago.
about certain things, but you think in a modern age a thing like that could never happen. Well, it comes back. It is genius. It comes back, and it's too bad. But I think the people working on this have been incredible. The job they've done has really been incredible. But there's tremendous amounts of not only masks, of ventilators and respirators and everything you can think of. It's all being, much of it, and almost, I could say all of it is being manufactured right now. Steve, please.
Yesterday, there were questions about the use of this malaria drug. Have those questions now been resolved?
Well, I don't know that resolved. I could say that
Ask
it's
a doctor.
going to be distributed. I know New York is getting, I think, 10,000 units, and numerous other people. It's really, it could be the malaria drug plus the Z-Pack. But, and we're going to find out. We're going to find out. I feel, look, I feel, as the expression goes, what do we have to lose? Because
Horrible side effects. Ask Fauci.
I feel very good about it. Tony would feel, like he'd like samples done in a certain way, and I understand that too. Many doctors agree with that. We don't have much time.
Testing.
We have a lot of very sick people right now in hospitals all over the place. And speaking with the governor, New York, Cuomo,
I said, how's it look? He's got a lot of sick people. So we're going to be delivering a lot of samples to New York and other places, and we're going to find out very shortly whether or not it's going to work. I feel very confident. I mean, I've seen things that surprise me, frankly. There are, as Tony said, there are other things we're looking at too.
Oh, no.
Vaccine, of course, is incredible, but this is more immediate. Right now, this to me would be the greatest thing that could happen. This would be a gift from heaven. This would be a gift from God if
Oh,
it
my
works.
God.
So we're going to pray to God that it does work. It'll be a fantastic thing.
Mr. President,
Yeah, please, Rebecca.
Mr. President, on the economic front, there are reports that the coronavirus is really hurting your businesses, especially your hotels.
My businesses?
Yeah,
Sure.
so is that true, and can you speak
Well,
to
I wouldn't say it's
financials?
thriving when you decide to close down your hotels and your businesses. No, I would say, but I'm very under-levered and everything, so that's good. But is it hurting yeah, it's hurting me, and it's hurting Hilton, and it's hurting all of the great hotel chains all over the world. It's hurting everybody. I mean, there are very few businesses that are doing well. Now, there are some that are.
That's actually pretty good
Like,
bait.
as an example, the Walmarts of the world, because everybody's lined up to get things and stock up their house and this and that. But sure, it hurts my business. But
Did you or anyone in your administration talk to anyone at the Trump Organization about the potential effects of the coronavirus?
no, I didn't speak to anybody. I speak to my sons, but I talk about the coronavirus, but not as
The
it
virus.
pertains to my business. They basically follow the rules. When they say close them down in New York, we close them down, or wherever they may be. I actually have them all over the world. And when they say close them down, we close them down. What, Kelly?
Will you no longer go to Mar-a-Lago or Bend?
Well, I have nothing planned at Mar-a-Lago, but right now I think Mar-a-Lago, I guess, I haven't even asked, but I imagine that's closed down just like a lot of other businesses in Florida.
Sure, he has no idea.
Right? Go ahead.
Do you expect your family company to seek government assistance if it's eligible?
I don't know. I mean, I just don't know what the
That means
government
yes.
assistance would be for what I have. I have hotels.
How do you not know? You're
Everybody
setting it
knew
up.
I had hotels when I got elected. They knew I was a successful person when I got elected.
Oh,
So
boy.
it's one of those things. I guess I get paid $450,000 a year. I give it up. I put it back into the nation. I have to, by the way, you have to designate where you want it. So I oftentimes give it to opioid, research and things.
Specifically, not you.
But as far as the hotels and everything, I mean, I have to do what everyone else is doing. I would probably decide to close things up. I think it's a good thing. You don't want people getting together. And hotels and clubs and everything, you get together. We want to beat this deal. So I have many of them, hotels, clubs, things like that, where people get together. I would think it would be a good practice to close them up. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Mr. President, as you know, we've been talking a lot about masks. We've also talked about how not everyone needs to take a test. What about a temperature test? As we know, we all came into this room and got
Yeah.
tested before we entered.
Well, I do it.
the grounds.
I do it. I have temperature tests, and
But should
I didn't ask everybody here, but I wouldn't be surprised if they had temperature tests.
Should those thermometers?
Otherwise, I'm gonna run off the
sensors
stage.
be distributed? Should they be on a mass distribution basis too?
Oh, I think they are pretty much. The easiest thing is the
They are-
temperature.
they are
I
being
think they are.
distributed.
I don't know. Are you learning a lot from the temperature test, Tony? Could you maybe discuss that for a second?
Oh, boy.
They have a place. They're not infallible. I mean, there's so many ways to get around that. I mean, right now, every time, certainly here, every time I go into a different room, I get my temperature taken. But we see that on the outside, that some people are
I
doing
took his
that.
temperature
He did.
twice, actually.
It was very low. There is a role for it under certain circumstances. What I don't see is a massive distribution of thermometers that are going to actually have a major impact on what I showed, what we need to do.
And I've seen things when Tony mentions thermometers. They aim something at your forehead, they stay this far away, boom, and they tell you what your temperature is. I said, I've never seen that before. I've learned a lot. It's incredible. Go ahead, the back corner.
Jennifer Pellegrino with OAN, thank you. This morning, the Washington Post ran a story suggesting that you delayed taking action on the virus in January and February.
Someone clip that.
Dr. Fauci has indicated that your action in the Chinese travel ban helped America immensely. What do you say to the Washington Post?
This must be OAN.
Well, I love whoever you're with.
It's
That's-
OAN.
I think that's such a nice question.
It's a delightful one.
No, I think the Washington Post covers us very inaccurately, covers me very inaccurately. I
Clip
saw
it.
the story. I think it's a disgrace. but it's the Washington Post, and I guess we have to live with it. It's a very inaccurate, It's a very inaccurate story. From many people, I get a lot of credit for having closed our country very early to a very heavily infected country. China, unfortunately, China. I wish China would have told us more about what was going on in China long prior to us reading about it, even though the news isn't exactly disseminated. As you know, China kicked the Washington Post out of China, and they kicked the New York Times out of China.
Oh, my
I guess
goodness.
the Wall Street Journal, that's okay. I mean, that's what they do, and I think it's a terrible thing they did. But I also think it's terrible when people write inaccurately about you, and they write inaccurately about me every single day, every single hour. And by the way, your group really, I really think, and I just say fair.
so he
not
does
good
know
or
where
bad.
he's
I think
from.
you write very fairly and do very fair reports about the great job that
OAN
all of
is
us are doing,
insane.
that this group behind me is doing. It's so insulting when they write phony stories that they know are fake news, because they're not insulting me, they're insulting everybody, these incredible people that have worked so hard, so long, that are thinking about nothing other than this invisible enemy. They have done such an incredible job, and
Please
they will
email me
continue,
that thermometer clip
and we're going to
through
win,
my website.
and there'll be a lot of celebration when we win. And we're going to win with as few lives lost as possible. That's the game. Win with as few lives lost as possible. It's a tough enemy. It's a tough killer. Far bigger, far more vicious than ever before. But I appreciate you saying it, because the fact that we closed so early to China, and most people, hey, look, I was called xenophobic by Sleepy Joe Biden. I was called a racist by Democrats. A
Look at this
racist. I was
guy.
a racist because I decided that I didn't want to have people that could hurt our country come in. And I was pretty much in a very small group of people, I will tell you. It was a tiny little group. Most people, even that worked in the White House, disagreed with me very strongly. Saving of those many weeks was a tremendous...
We're screwed, guys.
A tremendous thing. And when they keep talking about acting early, that was the ultimate act. That was the biggest act.
It was an act.
Because we didn't. And then I also closed Europe early, very early.
He closed Europe.
And I took a lot of heat for that, too. But that was a good thing. Now they're doing similar things that we're doing. So I didn't act late. I acted early. I acted far before anybody thought I should be. I took tremendous criticism from the various papers, from many of the papers. So,
We're so
I
screwed.
very much appreciate the question. It might have been more of a statement than a question, but whatever it may have been, I appreciate it very much.
Right, he loves that.
About the states, so a number of the states have kind of done these different measures. We've seen California order one
Yes.
thing, New York, just be similar. Do you want all of the states to do one uniform?
No, they can do what they want to do. If California can get a mask sooner than we can get it for them, through all of the things we're able to do, I mean, we're going to end up with a big oversupply at some point. At some point, this is going away, and we're going to end up with a big oversupply. And you know what? In this case, that's going to be okay. But if Gavin can go out and order gowns faster, or masks, good masks faster, or other things faster, that's good. We do have a lot of, the coordination with the ships that we're sending in, as you know, the medical ships that we're sending in, and even cruise liners. We're going to be sending in probably cruise liners into some areas, in particular California and in particular New York. But if somebody can do something faster, if they can order that mask faster than us, I want them to be able to do
Sorry
it.
about the rules, sir. So people can't leave their homes. That certain businesses that are
We
exempt.
coordinate very much with them,
You
yes.
don't want all those to be the same.
Well, it doesn't
nationwide.
have to be at this moment, because we have places in the country where, states where they have 2 people or 3 people, and those people are in quarantine. And you can't put on them what you're putting in New York, where you do have a tremendous problem. I mean, we have large portions of the country, Middle America, where, they have a few people. So it may be a time, I hope that never happens, where we need to take very drastic action. But right now, that's not in the same ballpark. Yeah, go ahead, please.
We're at day 6 into your 15 days of recommendations.
Yes.
A lot of people are following them. Some people are not.
Yeah.
Do you think the American people are doing enough right now to slow the
I
spread
think
of
they
this
are,
virus?
and some people are not. But
I think they
I
are,
think they are.
and
I
some
think it's
people are
gonna
not.
have,
That's a no.
Very profound effect. I mean, we'll know a little bit more on day 14 and 15, and we'll see.
Once we get to
Well,
the
we're
end?
going to see. We have to see what the result is. We want to flatten that out, and we're going to see what the result is. And I just want to say, I'm going to negotiate a very large transaction, and I've been negotiating it for 2 days. So I'm going to take 1 or 2 more questions, and then I'm going to leave it to Vice President Pence?
Yes.
On the Hill, with the Hill. The various elements of the package. Steve, go
Elements
ahead.
of package.
A number of groups are calling for the postponement or cancellation of the Olympics. Have you given him third?
No, I haven't. Look, we understand the difficulty of that, and he's a very good friend of mine. You take a look at Shinzo Abe. He's a great gentleman. He loves his country. We have an incredible relation. We just finished a trade deal with them, $40 billion trade deal with Japan, and Prime Minister Abe has a big decision to make. You know, they have built one of the most beautiful venues I've ever seen. They're all ready to go. It's not late. It's not over budget. It was just done flawlessly, and it's beautiful. And they're sitting back and saying, you know, I told him, I said, that's your decision, and it is his decision, and I know he's going to make it soon. I don't know what it's going to be, and I didn't think I should be influencing it at all. I mean, the job that Japan has done on that venue is incredible. So, I mean, there are options, obviously, including delay and maybe delay for next year, but that's totally up to them. We'll see what they do.
Since this story keeps popping up, when did you first learn that this was going to be a problem?
Well, you know, when I learned, I started doing the closing. So, you know, probably around that time. We didn't learn much. I think you're going to ask a little bit about China responsibility. I do think that, again, I have great respect for China.
Lie.
I like China. I think the people of China are incredible. I have a tremendous relationship with President Xi.
Definitely
I wish
lie.
they could have told us earlier about what was going on inside. We didn't know about it until it started coming out publicly.
Briefed in January.
But I wish they could have told us earlier because we could have come up with a solution. Tony Fauci and all of the people, the talent that we have, would have loved to have had 3 or 4 months of additional time if you knew that this was going to be happening. They didn't have that time.
Yes, sir, Mr.
They
President.
read about it in newspapers like everybody else.
This guy's lying.
China was very secretive. Okay,
Fauci
very,
knows
very
these
secretive.
are lies.
And that's unfortunate. With that, I have great respect for that country. I have great respect
Wrong.
for the leader of that country and like him. He's a friend of mine. But I wish they were able to, I wish they would have told us earlier, Steve.
Not an answer.
That they were having
Question
a
was,
problem.
when did
because
you
they were
know?
having a big problem and they knew it. And I wish they could have given us an advance warning because we could have done.
Question was,
we could
when
have
did
had a
you
lot
know?
of things. As an example, some of the things that we're talking about, where we order them as quickly as we can. If we had a 2 or 3 month difference in time, it would have been much better. Yeah,
What a
please.
liar.
Follow up on that
Yeah.
because as you were saying, China was extremely secretive about this. Several of your advisors have been warning, have been critical of China. Secretary Pompeo was talking about it yesterday, and he had been saying so for quite some time. So why then, on January 24th, did you tweet that China has been working very hard to contain the coronavirus, that the United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency?
Because
it will
it's
all
true.
work out well.
Because
Why were
it's
you
true.
saying that, though?
China has worked very hard. China has lost thousands and thousands of people.
So
No, they-
China was first hiding, transparent on January 24, and Trump did nothing till February and March. What?
China, just so you understand, China is not a beneficiary here. China has lost thousands and thousands of people. China has gone through hell over this. They've gone through hell, and I've had conversations with President Xi. I just wish they could have told us earlier. They knew they had a problem earlier. I wish they could have said that.
Weaponized.
Are you able to share, thank you for the numbers on the testing, by the way. Are you able
Thank
to
you.
share any other hard numbers on number of available tests, on number of ventilators in the federal stockpile?
Well, I'm going to leave that up to Dr. Fauci and everybody else. And I think the answer is we want to share them. I would imagine we want to share the numbers as Admiral. Do you want to discuss that?
Nobody
masks
wants to
that you
talk about
cited,
that.
They're due for delivery in 18
Not
months.
billion. No, not billion.
500 million masks,
Yeah.
excuse me, thank you.
I said, wait a
The
minute.
500 million masks, they're due for delivery according to HHS within 18 months. The last number on ventilators we had was 12 to 13,000. Can you give us an updated number?
Well, there's
on that?
never been numbers like this. You know, a ventilator is a machine. It's a very complex machine. And to think
Didn't
that
know
we
that.
have to
No,
order
didn't know that.
hundreds of
The
thousands,
machine, you
nobody's
said.
ever heard of a thing like this.
Thought it was food.
You know, when we had in the stockpile, we had thousands in a stockpile, thousands ready to go. That's a lot. All of a sudden, you need hundreds of thousands. And you're not talking about, you know, the mask is whether it's plastic or whether it's material, that's one thing. But you're talking about a very sophisticated, heavily computerized machine and delicate. and you need hundreds of thousands of them. Nobody's ever heard of a thing like that. With that being said, General Motors, Ford, so many companies, I had 3 calls yesterday directly. Without having to institute, like, you will do this, these companies are making them right now. But to think of these numbers, it's pretty...
The worst one ever.
It's pretty
You
mind-boggling.
have numbers to share, though, right now. Do you have numbers to share with us right now?
Mike, go ahead, please.
Yeah, you bet. Well, we've spoken a lot about masks this morning, but the president's also given the task force a priority of assessing the availability and expanding the availability of ventilators. And on Monday, we will detail some very encouraging news for Americans. You speak about the number of 13,000. It is a little more than that we have in the national stockpile. But it's important to remember that that doesn't include the more than 100,000 ventilators that are in healthcare facilities and hospitals around America today. It doesn't include what will be produced, as the president said. We're seeing companies step forward. These manufacturers tell us that a ventilator actually isn't a very complicated piece of equipment, and many
Trump
of them
just said
are
it is.
literally surging forward to create more ventilators. But one of the more exciting developments in the last week, which we'll detail more on Monday, is that in the president's engagement with our healthcare community, we learned that ventilators that are currently used by anesthesiologists, that are used in outpatient clinics and in other procedures, can be converted to be used as ventilators for people struggling with the effects of the coronavirus. We've confirmed that a particular screen in that device can be changed readily. We're working with the FDA to approve that. But again, it's a great testament of the American people and our healthcare professionals that are
amazing
stepping
time to be
forward,
alive.
and bringing ideas forward that literally, as we'll document Monday, will increase the supply of ventilators.
Notice how Trump just talked about how complex ventilators are, and Pence just said they're really not complicated and we can retrofit existing machines.
Who are serving in healthcare around America have the support they need, that our patients that are struggling with recovering from coronavirus have the equipment they need, and we'll have a lot of detail on Monday as we continue to assess
8 days ago that we
what's
would have
available.
1.4 million tests on board by the end of this week, by today. Do we have that? Can you give us the number that we have?
Let me let Admiral Guo speak to that.
Yes. Somebody else,
I'm going
please.
to answer your question and then try to persuade you to stop asking about a specific number, okay? So from March 2nd to March 14th, we have put over 10 million laboratory tests into the U.S. commercial market, and we expect that by March 28th to be well over 27 million into the market. So that answers your question, and let me tell you why it's not the right question.
And no one's getting tested.
Not every lab can run every test. Not every test is completely self-contained. So the more important question is not how many tests are in the market. We got them in the market, but is to make sure that every segment of the market has the kind of test that they can use.
Admiral, we're using your numbers, trying to find out for the public if the things you've promised are happening.
Yes, they are happening. They
Oh,
are.
but stop asking
We promised
about it, it
1 or
says.
4 million. There's 10 million tests in the market
And
now.
are the masks that are in the strategic reserve being deployed, Mr. Vice President?
Yes, the masks in the strategic national
So
stockpile.
it's not 13,000 anymore, it would be a lower number. Would that be fair to say?
Masks
ventilators.
or-
No,
Ventilators.
I'm sorry, the respirators. Thank you. We're trying to understand if the things we have been told sitting through these briefings for many days are happening.
They're not.
And getting into the hands of the healthcare providers.
You
No.
understand it. You understand it.
We're trying
You're
to
an
understand,
intelligent
sir.
woman, Kelly. You understand exactly what he's saying. And what he's saying is rather incredible, because we
It's
inherited
completely
an
incredible.
obsolete,
Literally,
broken
no
system.
one believes it.
And when you hear the number of tests that we'll be providing and are now, it's incredible. And I've heard a lot of governors say the same thing. We took over an obsolete, broken testing system that wouldn't have worked for even a small problem, let alone one of the biggest pandemics in history. And what these gentlemen have done is incredible. I am going now to negotiate a great deal for our workers and our citizens. I'll be back tomorrow. We're probably doing this tomorrow.
Wow.
And if I might, I'd like to ask Vice President Pence to take over. And thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, guys, that's as far as I'm going with it today. It's getting very toxic, and we're just going to hear Pence's lies. So if you must continue, it'll have to continue elsewhere. I will cover the next one tomorrow. Hopefully some doctors will tell us things.